Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So good to see you all. Today we're doing something I've been thinking about for way too many years now. For the longest time, I have wanted to do a platinum trophy tier list because I've been playing video games, especially on PlayStation, for as long as I can remember, and I have accumulated 52 total platinums, which I can provide proof for right over here. You can see my PlayStation screen, I have 52 platinums, and just kind of giving you a quick rundown from top to bottom. You can pause if you like. I'm not going to go through every single trophy as I have over 5,000, but you can see I have a lot of games played over the course of 15 to 16 years now, because I believe my first trophy was in 2010, 12/25, 2010, on Christmas Day. Was the first PS3 I received and the first time I was able to receive trophies. And you can obviously imagine that I fell in love with the trophy system. It was my first time ever experiencing something like that, and I loved it. I fell in love. I'm just gonna put some music on for us here, and we're gonna go ahead and get straight into it. Okay, perfect. All right. So, as you can tell, I've played a lot of games and I've been thinking about this for a long time. Finally, we can do it together. So, without further ado, let's get straight into it with an absolute banger of a game, Bloodborne. Now, Bloodborne for me was one of the first Souls games that I actually played. I am not a huge Souls guy. It's not that I'm bad at them, I just don't usually enjoy the genre because it limits me in terms of movement, but Bloodborne had it all. The ironic part about it is, I actually didn't like Bloodborne. I got it, and I think I returned Bloodborne when I first bought it because I didn't like how clunky it was. It was my first time ever laying my hands on this genre, and I was not a fan. I was like, man, this is just odd. I can't really move. I feel so stiff. Everything is so powerful, and it takes me 400 hits to kill them. Little did I know I could run past the first enemy. I didn't have to fight the wolf and then go up the ladder, and now I can get my weaponry from that sanctuary, right? I didn't know that. So I was really pissed off. I actually returned the game to my local GameStop, which is where I bought it from, and I called it a day. I came back to this game years later and gave it another try, and once I learned that I could run past enemies and I didn't have to fight everybody and how the whole game worked, I fell in love with it. The aesthetic, the dark atmosphere, the screeching of the enemies, the blood, the gore, the weaponry, the playstyle, the picture perfect dodging. Oh my god, Bloodborne had it all. I freaking loved it. For me, Bloodborne as a platinum trophy, oh, I gotta put it up here. I loved it. It wasn't my favorite. It wasn't my favorite. I have a favorite genre on here, and you guys can probably tell just by looking at all my platinums down here which ones they are, but we'll get to them when we get to them. For me, Bloodborne was amazing, and the only thing that held it back was that I was playing on a PlayStation and it was 30 frames per second. That was the only downside. Otherwise, I freaking loved that game, and I'd give it a great like 8 or 9 out of 10. It was absolutely worth it. Now, putting that aside and getting into Call of Duty Ghost, oh, man, the thing is, Call of Duty games were fun for the time. Early 2000s, early 2010s rather. These games were slapping. The campaign was amazing. I actually think Call of Duty Ghost campaign was one of the best campaigns out there and severely underrated. That's why I liked it so much enough to platinum it, because the campaign was fun and I personally liked the multiplayer. I know a lot of people didn't like Call of Duty Ghost because of the knife mechanic, which was basically your insta-kill at close range. People didn't like it because it took way too long, so if you knifed somebody, had the quicker reaction time, you were a sitting duck for about 2 seconds as an animation played out. They also weren't a big fan of the clunky play style, where you could have the sliding, right, but it was kind of slow. You also had different weaponry that had ACOG scopes that were additions and retractable and all these other things. It was a very unique game for its time. Also, the zombies, right, we had just gotten, I think Black Ops had come before it, and we got zombies, and they gave us aliens. I love the aliens. A lot of people did not love the aliens. In fact, it's probably one of the least favorite game modes, which is why we never got a Call of Duty Ghost 2, and I was sad about it. Long story short, it was a blast, but I can't, if I'm being honest, I can't put it up there with some of these other games. Like, it just doesn't belong up there, because Call of Duty on its own was meant to be replayed, and the replayability was meant to be the multiplayer side. The multiplayer side, I think there might have been trophies for it, but they weren't anything that was seriously tough or anything like that. And so just overall, looking at it as a total game, how much fun I had, the difficulty of it, it has to be a low tier. Even with how much fun I had, even with the story, I would give it a C if I'm ranking on an S to a D scale. Same thing with Black Ops 1. I have to be fair, guys. I have to be fair here. Call of Duty Black Ops 1 has one of the best campaigns I've ever played for a Call of Duty game, vis-a-vis why I decided to sit down and platinum it. You had trophies, right, for the zombies, which the zombies are some of the most iconic in the series. We're talking about Kino der Toten, right? We're talking about Ascension. We're talking about so many good maps, in my opinion, that have been remastered and remade for all the different Call of Duties in the last 10 to 15 years. It was iconic. The multiplayer was fun, and the sound effects were amazing. Top tier, one of the best, on par with Modern Warfare series, Modern Warfare 1 and 2's sound effects. The gameplay was fun, the story was good, but in terms of how long it was, how much fun overall, I can't put it in the high tier. Maybe, I think for now we'll put it in a B, which is middle of the pack, because I think it was better than Ghost, but I don't think that it was better than some of the games that are going to be coming up. Let's just be fair. We have to be fair, right? Okay, moving on to another one. Darksiders 3. I'm going to be honest here, guys. Darksiders 3 was an accidental platinum. What do I mean by that? Well, you see, I wasn't a fan of Darksiders 1, and I never even played Darksiders 2. I'm a fake Darksiders fan, as you could say. What happened was, Darksiders 3, I believe I got for free through the PlayStation Plus subscription. They give you free games on a monthly basis. And that one of those games was Darksiders 3. I played the first one, and I was not a fan. I didn't really like it that much. So, I played it to beat it, because just for beating it, each difficulty gave you a gold trophy. It was like easy was gold, normal was gold, hard was gold. So just for beating the game, because I was playing it on like hard difficulty, I was getting 3 gold trophies. So I just brute forced it, paid attention to nothing, skip buttoned it all, and just did the fight scenes just for the gold trophies. Long story short, I didn't like it that much. So I came in with really low expectations for Darksiders 3. Now, I will say the gameplay was better than I expected. It was fun enough for me to play, and by the time that I'd beaten it, I realized that I was super close to a platinum. There was only a few trophies I was missing, so I decided to go back and do it for the sake of doing it. But in terms of fun, but in terms of gameplay, style, all of these other things, excuse me, I can't put it high on this list. It was probably one of my least favorite platinums that I've ever done. So, as much as it pains me, I'm not a big Darksiders fan. There's no nostalgic value here for me. This game right here is going to go all the way down in the D tier. You know, so far, I think this is very healthy. This list has got one of everything. This is great. Okay, now this is where it's going to start to get crazy, guys. Destroy All Humans 2. The original version. We're talking the original version, the one that came out on PS2 and original Xbox. The reason why I have this game on here is because within the last few years, I was actually able to buy the original PS2 version of this game from the PlayStation Store for like $10 or something like that. And it was the original graphics, everything. It wasn't a remaster, it wasn't a remake. It was literally the exact game that I played way back when, just brought up to the newer console, the newer devices. I'm not even joking. The game, I think, took me between 40 and 50 hours to complete. It was just as good as I remember. You're an alien who invades the planet. In the first game, your whole goal is to take over humanity by eventually, body snatching the president of the United States, right? And with that power, you can do whatever you want with the world, because in the game, that's the main goal, right? In the second game, you get found out and they end up blowing up your mothership, and there's a guy named Pac who is supposed to be like the brains of the operation while you're the bronze, right? and you go on a worldwide tour where you're in the United States, you're in the United Kingdom, you go over to Japan, you go over to Russia, you go to the moon. You actually have an open world aspect with collectibles, enemies, different variants of enemies. We're talking about humans, we're talking about ninjas, we're talking about KGB, FBI agents, we're talking about monsters, like genetically altered monsters. We're talking about a freaking Godzilla replicant. This game was underrated. If you've never played the original Destroy All Humans and Destroy All Humans 2, you missed out on a golden age of gaming, guys. Because I'm telling you right now, even now, in today's standards, going back just a year or two ago and playing a game that came out 20 plus years ago, this game was a ride. The story, the dialogue is hilarious. It's set in the 1970s. Everyone's talking about groovy baby. They got afros. They're all doing the Kool-Aid, as you know what I'm talking about. It is a blast. It is a snapshot in time, and it is the perfect game if you want to laugh and have a good time exploring an open world. I believe this game is underrated, and although it's an old game, it belongs in the A rank. I'm going to put it here in the A rank behind Bloodborne for now, and then we'll go ahead and we'll make our way up. Now, things are going to get serious. If you guys know anything about me and my account, who I am as a person, and what's made me a gamer today, you're looking right at it. The God of War series, we're talking about the Greek mythology God of War, is my favorite game series of all time, and my favorite character, my favorite video game character in all of gaming. Kratos is the man, and I've been here since the beginning. Fun fact, I actually didn't play these games in order. It wasn't God of War 1, 2, 3, Chains of Olympus, Ghost of Sparta, Ascension, God of War 2018, Ragnarok. I didn't play them like that. I played God of War 2. Then I played God of War Chains of Olympus. Then I played God of War 3. Then I went back to God of War 1. Then I did Ghost of Sparta, Ascension. And then I did the 2018 and Ragnarok. So I was all over the place. And every single time, no matter what order I played them in, I played these games and freaking loved it. The gameplay remained mostly the same because you always had your Blades of Chaos, Blades of Athena, Blades of whatever the heck they were. They were always Blades of something, right? Blades of Exile in the last game. I always loved the combat and fluidity of it, right? I always loved Kratos' badass, I don't give an F mentality. He didn't care who you were, where you came from, what entitlement you had or you thought you had. He was slapping you across the face every single time because you were in his way and he had an objective to complete. This man was completely, and I mean completely, boned in the backside, right? I was going to say arse, but I wasn't sure if that was appropriate for YouTube. He was boned in the backside by the gods with deceit and all these other things. The long story short, just to kind of gist up the next 3 games that are on our list here, because they're all God of War games, he was tricked by the gods into killing his own family. Long story short, they told him that in order to pay his dues back to the gods who saved his life as he was about to perish to a barbarian. His army, as a Spartan general, was fighting like Vikings or barbarians, something along those lines. And he was about to die to the general. He called up to Ares. He asks Ares to defeat his enemies and his life will be his in return. Excuse me. Ares abides by it, takes him, places the blades to his skin by searing them on so they cannot be removed by divine intervention. And with those blades, he defeats his enemy. But in return, he now needs to do Ares' bidding. And Ares' bidding in this instance was to create the perfect warrior. So without telling Kratos, he places his family in a village and then tells him, you need to go destroy this village, slaughter everybody, leave no survivors. He bursts in the door, kills everybody, realizes his own wife and daughter were in there. From that moment forward, it set forth the events of all the God of Wars. And I'm going to tell you right now, in my opinion, the first God of War desperately needs a remake and a remaster. And thank goodness to Santa Monica Studios, who is actually giving us the original trilogy, 1, 2, and 3, is getting a remake, not a remaster, a remake. They announced that because it needs it. Because it's the worst graphical one, in my opinion. And in my opinion, the story was good. but it's the weakest of all of the games except for one. There's only one game that's worse. So for me, I love this game, but I have the least attachment to it because it's one of the last God of War games I came to. Remember, I did God of War 2, I did Chains of Olympus, I did God of War 3, then I went back to God of War 1. My first God of War was God of War 3, I believe. Or maybe it was Chains of Olympus on the PSP. It was Chains of Olympus, that's what it was. I did all of those games. Then, because I loved them so much, I went back to God of War 1, which is where it all started. So for me, it has the least nostalgic value, and I can't put it above Destroy All Humans or Bloodborne. It's gonna go in the B tier, but it's gonna go in the B tier. Can I like switch these? In front of Call of Duty Black Ops, because I still think it was better than Black Ops, but that's because I am a God of War fanatic. I love it. I am a fan. Chains of Olympus, I think Chains of Olympus was a side story to the God of War franchise, where, long story short, again, because I don't want to get too much and too long into this, Kratos was set on a path to have his nightmares removed, because Athena had promised him to remove his nightmares and he would be forgiven for his sins by the gods, so he could actually become a divine individual if they went and set out to do a mission. He goes ahead, he sets out, he does that mission. The mission includes defeating Persephone because she's mad at the gods for forcing her to be married to her husband, Hades, and she's actually in ties with the Titans. She allows Atlas, I believe it was Atlas, the guy, the Titan with 4 arms, she frees him, she gets Helios's son, and she puts it in his hand, and with that power she goes into Elysium and has the Titan using all his strength combined with Helios's power to destroy the World Tower in Elysium, which is holding up the fabric of reality of the human realm. Meaning, if this tower gets destroyed, all of humanity would die in an instant. It would be her great comeuppance or comeback, her whatever, her payback. If you guys won't help me, I'll destroy and kill everyone who you revere so much because they worship you as a god. It was a crazy storyline, a lot of fun, and for the PSP, this game was amazing. I freaking love this game. This was a PSP game that was relatively short in the grand scope of things, which is why it's going to be on the lower rating, but I freaking love them. These are my entry into the God of War series, and because of that, right now we're going to put it at the top of B. Ghost of Sparta. I remember a few things. Better graphics. It was on PSP as well. It was better graphics. God of War Ghost of Sparta had better graphics, but a more expansive story, because it introduced his brother and gave a little bit more backstory on what happened to Kratos, because there was a prophecy that the gods had received that a marked warrior was going to overthrow Mount Olympus. So the gods were like, okay, let's go get this warrior and imprison him now so this prophecy can't be held. What they didn't know is that Kratos and Deimos were the two people that they were talking about in the prophecy. However, they chose the wrong one, because Deimos had a mark on him already. And when they went to take Deimos, Kratos came to stop them, and they shooed him off because he was just a small child while they were gods. And when they did that, they knocked him back into some kind of like barrel, structure that kind of collapsed on top of him. And that moment actually gave him the scar over his eye, which later on was the marked warrior that was prophesized. They didn't know it at the time, but by taking Deimos, his brother, they created the marked warrior that was setting it forth the prophecy to overthrow them. It was such a cool story, and I freaking loved it. We got to have the moment where Deimos was mad at his brother when you finally find him, because he thought that he had left him there. Kratos doesn't fight him. He doesn't fight back. He lets him wail on him and completely beat him, inches from death, because he understands. And he's not even though he's a brute warrior, he's not heartless. He understands where the frustration comes from, and he ends up having his brother taken from him when he's in that bloody and beaten down state, and he gets himself up and throws himself off an edge to chase after the god of death, where they end up teaming up against him. But unfortunately, Deimos perishes in the battle as Kratos finishes him off. And then he makes a slow walk up to the burial site where God of War 1 actually begins, and he sets down his brother into a grave steps through a cliff, and then he throws himself over it, which is the beginning of God of War 1. It was so cool how they tied it all in together. This game was amazing. What holds it back is that it was short and it was on the PSP. So because it's a PSP entry, I can't put it above Destroy All Humans 2 and Bloodborne, but I can put it at the top of B, because I think, there we go, I think it was better than Chains of Olympus. It was definitely better than God of War 1. Whoa, 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 whoa! What the heck happened to my music? There we go. I'm gonna turn the music up a tiny bit. Maybe like right there. That feels good. Okay. So now that we're back, God of War Ragnarok. Okay, now we're getting into a serious heavy hitter right here. God of War Ragnarok for me is one of the better God of Wars in the series. Okay, God of War Ragnarok, basically, in a long story short, is you and Kratos and Atreus, after they've had their big 2018 hoo-la-la, where they're fulfilling Atreus' mother's wish and Kratos' wife's wish, which is Faye. They basically fulfill her request to have her ashes scattered at the top of the highest mountain in all of their mythology. And they come back and realize that there's some prophecy on the walls, right? There's this guy named Loki, and that's what they've been referring to Atreus as. And he has this big prophecy around him that's going to bring forth Ragnarok, and Loki's supposed to be having a huge part in it. There's this mystery about what that means, what's coming next, and yada, 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 right? You go through a whole thing that could have been separated into two different games in a beautiful open world with crazy combat. I don't want to spoil too much because these games are just too good that you have to experience on your own. This game was like a 9.5 out of 10 for me. It was right there, so close to being a 10 out of 10. I loved every moment of it. I thought the gameplay was fun. They had taken a few systems that were in 2018 that were a bit clunky and made them better. Like I felt like the armor sets and the weapon sets and the upgrades for them were a little bit smoother, right? The reason why I'm only going to place this, I think, in around an A, at the top of A, is because I believe there are a few games that are better, and I'll get to them, the reasons why. I think God of War Ragnarok took some things from 2018 and improved upon them, and there were some things that it took a few steps back on, and I'll touch on those when we get to the game, which it looks like the games, we got a little bit of time. It's gonna be a bit, so we'll get there. Okay. Let's get to the next game. Infamous Second Son. Guys, I can't express to you enough. This game is so underrated. It's criminally underrated. I wish I could put handcuffs on the people who don't know. Like, if you don't know, you don't know, and I understand that. But you guys are missing one of the greatest games of its generation. For the PS4 to deliver a game with this graphical intensity, it's insane, okay? If you like superhero games like Spider-Man, Superman, Hulk, whatever you play, I don't even know what they make today because I don't really pay attention to Marvel. This game right here is all of those, but better. I'm talking about graphics. I'm talking about decision-making mechanics where you can choose to be good or bad, and depending on if you're good or bad, you unlock different weapons, you have different types, not just different looks, not just different styles. You unlock different story mechanics. The story plays out differently depending on how you play. If you attack every protest you see on the street, if you blast every human you see, if there's a drug deal and you walk by it and you decide not to intervene, all of these are going to give you bad karma. And if you become the bad karma bad boy, your story is going to have a bad turn. You're going to become the villain of the story. On the flip side, you're going to have options. You're going to have dialogue where you can choose to do one path or the other, which is going to lead you towards the good or the bad. Excuse me. And if you decide to play good, sometimes bad, sometimes you might be right in the middle. And depending, again, which side you're leaning on at certain points in the story, it all changes depending on your actions. I freaking love it. It was my first time being introduced to a system like that with the original Infamous, and I fell in love with it. Infamous 1, Infamous 2, Infamous Second Son, Infamous Festival of Blood, which I believe was a DLC to the second game that I 100%ed, but there was no platinum because it was only a DLC. I loved all of them. I thought this game was amazing. the graphics alone, I put this game up there for me. But it can't be an S. There are only a few games that hit an S for me. And this game, I would say Second Son. This is tough. Do I want to put it above Destroy All Humans 2? It's not better than Bloodborne. It's not better than God of War. I'm going to go ahead and say yes, it is better because of the graphics, since obviously this is a PS2 game. But that's kind of unfair because it's a PS2 versus a PS4 game. We're talking about 2 generations. I think that's a compliment to how good Destroy All Humans 2, the original, was. Let's just leave it at that. Okay, here we go. This one's going to get a little bit hairy. Need for Speed Rivals. Okay, listen. As you can tell by all my platinums down there, I like all kinds of games, right? We got action games, we got story-based games, we got first-person shooters, we got open world games, and now we got racing games, okay? I like a plethora of these games. For me, Need for Speed Rivals is my favorite Need for Speed I have ever played. I'm including Need for Speed Underground 2. I'm including Most Wanted series. I'm including all of these Need for Speeds that I played, because I've played a lot of them. For me, Rivals was the best. Now, why was it the best? Because you had the system that they introduced in Need for Speed Hot Pursuit, but it was refined. And what do I mean by that? In Hot Pursuit, they gave you 4 different abilities while you were racing. You weren't just racing. Well, let me back up. Yes, there were abilities, but before that, it was the first game that I know of from Need for Speed. Oh, there's no way they're doing this again.
Let's just have AI do it.
There we go. Sorry about that, guys. It was the first Need for Speed that I know of where you were able to control the cops and the racers. You could choose between them, and they both had their own like stories, which I thought was amazing by itself, because now you could experience both sides of the spectrum. It wasn't just a racer like it always was. On top of that, guys, they were the first ones to introduce abilities. And what do I mean by abilities? I mean, they had, depending on if you were the cop or if you were the racer, they gave you different abilities to make the game different. For instance, if you were the racer, you would have a deployable spike strip. Why? Because the cops are always behind you. So you could deploy spike strips, blow out their tires, and now they got to go to a gas station to get their tires fixed, giving you a little bit of a head start, and you can keep moving, right? You can get some distance. On the flip side, if you are the cop, you could deploy a roadblock. You can deploy a helicopter. You have an EMP that if you allow it to lock onto them for long enough, you can disrupt their electrical systems. I was like, this game has so much more than the traditional slam into each other, crash, and bam. This game has got it all. And they took that system and they made it better. Rivals made that system better. They were like, let's give them the cops, let's give them the racers, let's give them a better world with longer strips, but not just straight lines. The map for Hot Pursuit was mostly just highways. It was just straight highways, very minimal cities, right? It was all about the sights as you were zooming by at 270 miles per hour, which is like 400 kilometers. I don't know exactly the number. And Need for Speed gave you environment. We're talking about rain, sun, thunderstorm, snow, and it would be actually slippery depending on if there was water or if you were up in the mountains where the snow was. You had different handling. They had an increased system where you had your cars with different chassis, different ramming functions, different bumpers and spoilers that would change the way your car operated. You could upgrade, you could change between only 2, which was a slight downgrade, only 2 effects, but you could change them to be level 1, 2, or 3, and they had different effects depending on how upgrade and how much investment you put into it. It was just a masterpiece for racing. I say all this to say this. It was a racing game at the end of the day. I loved it. I thought it was great. It's my favorite Need for Speed, but I don't think it deserves to crack even the B series here. Because at the end of the day, it's a racing game. And in my opinion, I think it would be a slap in the face to some of these other games if I was to throw it up there in S, A, or even B. So I think for me, as much fun as I had at this game, I would give it a C, just ahead of Call of Duty Ghost. Now, Nier Automata is an interesting one. The open world was fun. The androids that you got to control were cool, although they were sexualized, which, I mean, a lot of games these days, that kind of stuff is happening, so you gotta take it as it is. Hold on, I'm sorry, I just need a little something here. So even though they were slightly more sexualized than I would have liked, they had different maps, right? They had a desert area. They had an abandoned ruin that had been overgrown by a post-apocalypse where humans once lived, and then they were invaded by a machine army, and the army ended up destroying all of humanity. Humanity in response fled to the moon, and they created these androids, and these androids are supposed to fight a war for the humans, wiping out the robots that pretty much wiped out the humans, and then allowing the humans to come back in servitude. The androids would do their bidding and then, you know, go back to servitude of the humans. And it was a whole story that had twists and turns and all kinds of different things. Alien life coming in, robots who just wanted to become human and trying to be sentient, not even trying to have fights or anything anymore. The androids who were confused with some kind of rage virus that was making them go berserk and turn on each other. There was a lot to this game, but what makes this game shine for me was the multiple ending system. You would play the game beginning to end, right? Point A to point B, and it would be just like any other game. You wouldn't even know the difference until you beat the game, and then you started a second playthrough, which maybe some people didn't. Maybe some people played the game, called it a day there, and they just said, oh, that was a nice game, moved on. You missed out, because Nier has 5 endings. I'm not even joking. And each one starts with a different playthrough. When you beat the game, that was ending A. When you play the game a second time, you don't get to play the first part. You go to part 2. When you beat part 2, you go to part 3, 4, and then eventually you have your final. It was crazy. There's actually 26 endings, but the 21 other endings are gimmicks. Like, for instance, you're an android and you can take out your operating chip of your head, right? You have an operating chip that has slots, right? And depending on what it is you want to do, like, oh, I want to run faster, it's going to take up a certain space. I want to be able to dodge twice, that's going to take up a certain space. I want to run faster, take up certain space. I want to do more damage. Oh, sorry, you're full. Your chip, your certain space allotted is full. You're going to have to adjust to different skill sets to make the use of all the space you have, right? Well, there was actually in that operating space a chip that you could pull out that was called the operating chip. You pulled that operating chip out and you actually killed yourself because it's your operating chip. So, yeah, long story short, that was considered an ending. The credits would roll in like 10 seconds and that would be like a reset to home screen. But it was more like a gag ending, right? So they had little things like that littered all through the game where your choices did kind of have a... they did have a impact, but it wasn't anything serious. Like the real icing in the cake was when you beat the game and then you played it through a second time, because for instance, the first time you play as 2B, right? The second time you play as 9S to the exact same story. It's the exact same story the first 2 playthroughs, just a different character and different playthroughs. One person is like aggressive in your face samurai style. The other person is 9S, who is all about fighting from a distance, using his brain and hacking. That's his specialty. The story plays out a little bit different during certain sections where you were 2B in a big mechanized machine swiping with this big monster and you're blasting away and trying to, you know, fight. He's over there hacking, doing some kind of thing to stop the machine's operating system, right? And you play those parts depending on if you're on part 1 or part 2 of your playthrough, which I thought was pretty cool. But part 3 onward is when the game gets interesting. Part 3, you load up and it's a completely different start, something you didn't even know was possible. Suddenly you're landing on Earth with all the androids, right? 9S and 2B, the main 2 cast that you played at the beginning of the game with, are... what the heck? Who is singing a song? I'm getting ads way too often. Oh, I can't even skip it too, unfortunately. There it goes. Yeah, so long story short, 9S, 2B, the 2 characters that you started the entire first 2 playthroughs with, are nowhere to be found. And now it is you and a bunch of different androids landing on Earth, looks like for the first time, to fight the machine army, and you're all fighting some kind of virus, and everyone's going berserk and attacking each other, and you don't know what's happening, and it's just chaos as you're just all going at it with each other. It's crazy, right? And eventually, when you get to the end and you get to the final ending, there's a scene that I can't even explain enough. Basically, that hacking sequence I talked about, you'll have a little dot, and that dot will move on a 2D platform, right? And you'll be moving like this, shooting all these different bubbles coming in from different directions, right? And you'll be moving left, right, up, down, and shooting them. And if you get hit by any of them, you die and you lose, right? This is in the ending credits after you've beaten the game for the 4th time. What's going to happen is you're going to die a certain amount of times, and it's going to ask you, do you want to continue or do you want to accept help? I, being the stubborn guy that I am, wanted to continue and keep continuing and not stop until I had it. Well, eventually you realize, man, there's no way I can do this without accepting help. I'm going to accept help because I'm trying to beat this game and it's taking forever. You accept help, suddenly it's this music gets louder, it gets more intense, and you're all of a sudden, your little rocket ship, a second one joins, a third one, a fourth one, a fifth one, a sixth one. You're in a triangle formation and you have 6 times the firepower, blasting all in whatever direction you aim, right? And the bubbles that were coming in to hit you start multiplying. There's 1, there's 2, there's 4, there's 8, there's 12, there's 16. They're coming in from all directions, top, bottom, left, right, corners. It is insane. The music is blasting. Your heart rate is pumping at this point. Every time that a bubble comes in, one of those like surrounding guys who are helping you gets hit, they explode, fall off screen, and it'll say something like Java 123 died. And you like, and in the moment you don't realize what the heck is going on because more enemies keep coming in. You're literally being overwhelmed as the music is blaring, and then another teammate will come in, and it keeps happening. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 just died. Godman 97 died. The One died, and you just keep seeing them falling like flies, right? As you're just be like pushing off this brute force, this complete onslaught of all these bubbles. You get to the end, and it says, "Congratulations, you completed it." Then they hit you with the true plot twist, the biggest plot twist of the entire game. They tell you that every single one of the people who came in to help you were actual players, and they decided to sacrifice their entire save data to help you, and they ask you if you want to do the same. What a mind fork! You didn't know that was the consequence of your action when you accepted help. But those people didn't know that that was going to be the case when they were doing it too. It creates an ever-ending loop of like almost like you feel obligated to do it because you accepted the help without knowing the consequence. And so of course, I was like, I just made 30 people on estimate. I don't know because like you don't count in the moment. I just made 30 people destroy their account and lose all their save data. Also, I could beat it. Of course, I'm gonna nuke my stuff. I'm gonna nuke my save data so I can help somebody else beat it because they did that for me. Like it just creates this this cycle of pay it forward, you know? And I did it, and I thought it was a test. I actually thought that it was gonna be one of those things where they were like, you know, you proved your character. Don't worry, you don't actually need to have your data deleted. We just wanted to see if you would do this, and you did it. Congratulations, you beat the game, you passed the test, you get a reward, whatever it is. That's what I thought was gonna happen. No, they go section by section, screen by screen, and they delete it all, white bar going across the screen, and delete every single thing, and you watch it happen for like a minute straight. They reset all your data, they even ask you too. They're like, "Are you sure? Are you sure you want to do this? There's nothing coming back from this, and you cannot change your mind after you accept this. There is no real benefit for you here. You can deny this and say you don't want to. Are you sure?" They ask you like 4 times because they want to make sure that you are 1,000,000% okay with deleting your data and helping somebody else. I said yes. I said yes every time because I couldn't deal with the guilt of taking it without paying it forward. and I got to watch them delete screen by screen every single thing I did. I had like 100 hours of gameplay at that point, and it went down to 0. This game effed me up. I'm just gonna say it. The story was great, the gameplay was fun, and the plot twist at the end made 100 hours disappear, and it was one of the best memories I've ever had. So this game is great. This game for me is amazing. I think it's better than these 2 games. It belongs in A. I don't know if I would place it above Bloodborne though. That's the one game that I think in A, I think it should stay there because it was that good. I have like 150 hours in Bloodborne. Okay. I talked about Nier Automata a lot. I'm happy with where I placed it. I just wanted to give you guys a groundwork of why I placed it there, because this is a game, excuse me. Oh, look, right here, very top of the list. Boom. This is a game that a lot of you probably haven't played, as it's a JP game, but it does have English dubbing, and I believe that it's one of the best sleepers out there. If you haven't played it, give it a try. You should honestly give it a try. Okay, I need to move on here because I'm going to end up having this be 2 hours long at this point. Prototype, the original Prototype. Oh my god. The story was okay. The story wasn't bad. He basically was a scientist who I think was accidentally exposed to some kind of genetic experiment, ended up becoming some kind of monster that they ended up calling the Prototype, and he was able to change his genetic code to use his arms, legs, and all parts of his body into certain weapons. As you can see, he's got a sword there. I believe he had claws. There was like hammer-like things, like fists going on. You could actually, what was it? Could you take over the body of someone, or could you copy them? I think you could take over the body, kind of like what they did in Destroy All Humans 2. You could take over the body of somebody and walk into facilities undercover, like in camouflage, basically pretending to be somebody else. It was a really cool story of you playing an anti-hero. You were the villain the entire time, and I loved it. It was gory, it was brutal, there was zombies, there was infection, there was a green zone, a yellow zone, a red zone, depending on how bad the infection was. And when you made it to the red zone in the heart of New York City, you're talking about the Bronx, where everything was just insane. There was just zombies everywhere. And you could hop in tanks, you could hop in helicopters. It was a pinnacle of open world combat at that time. But it's an old game that I feel like hasn't aged that well. I had a good time with it though, and I think it belongs middle of the pack. This game for me, oh, whoopsies. This game for me, I think belongs here. No, I actually think I might have liked it more than the first God of War. So I think we would put the first God of War there. It still holds behind the other God of War, Chains of Olympus and Ghost of Sparta for me, but I think that it was better than the original God of War. They did a great job with Prototype, and I freaking love that game. Okay, moving on to Ratchet and Clank. The remake, I think, of like the first game. I don't know, it's a little bit weird because there's like a million Ratchet and Clank games, and I've played almost all of them. This game is a blast from the past. It is nostalgic beyond belief. Ratchet, Clank, Captain Quark, I mean, Dr. Nefarious, the names go on and on. I could sit here for literally hours. I'm doing it already. This game has upgraded graphics, better combat, open world that is vibrant and fun, all smashed together into the nostalgic sauce that, oh my god, if you've played any Ratchet Clank in the past, you'll know exactly right away. It feels like a Ratchet and Clank game. You're playing it, and I was loving it. They give you a Star Wars-like inspired universe, and it feels like it has soul. It feels like it has heart. The entire time, you know you're in this Ratchet and Clank universe because there's these different gorgs and different, mobs and enemies that just look so alien-like, but they don't look like threatening like you're in a Alien Isolation game. They look like they fit in the world around you. It's got the bright, vibrant colors. It's got the fun gameplay, the cool, smooth open world, and like different gadgets like your wrench so you can use it as a bolt to close things and open things. You got your boots so you can run up walls and go upside down and have combat like that. The list goes on and on. This game was a blast from the past in all the right ways, and I freaking loved it. Ratchet and Clank for me is up there. Where? I can't put it above God of War, but I think, do I like it more than Prototype? That's a tough one. I think I might have liked Prototype more, if I'm being honest. Oh my god. Why are we... I'm getting ads nonstop here. There we go. I think Prototype I liked more than Ratchet and Clank. It was close, but if I had to choose bright, vibrant, open world versus dark, zombie-fied, mutant gameplay, I think I prefer that. So for me, the darkness, I prefer the original Prototype to Ratchet and Clank, but it was close. They're right there. It's neck and neck, mano y mano. All right, boys, ladies and gentlemen, we get to an absolute bomb. Sorry about that. Resident Evil 4 Remake. I am a Resident Evil 4 stan. I played Resident Evil 4 from the original, from my first Resident Evil game of all time. Then, from that point, I played 5, I played 6, I played so on and so forth, right? I played the remakes of 2, 3, and 4, and then they made, 7, 8, so on and so forth, 9. I played all of them from 4 onward, and I loved them. That's because I came into the series at a different time. I'm not an original fan. I don't like the original 1, 2, and 3. I came in at 4 when we had the action shooter horror style of Resident Evil. Now, I know a lot of people will call me a fake fan because of that. That was the niche that I came into and I loved. I actually ended up playing it for the first time on the Wii console. And I liked it so much that I beat that game somewhere between 12 and 15 times. It was one of my favorite games of the Wii console generation. I was playing Wii Sports, and back then Wii Sports had actually there it is. Wii Sports on the Wii had multiple different types of events, right? We're talking about boxing, bowling, golf, tennis, and baseball. And depending on if you won or lost and by how much, you would get a reward system that would give you points depending on the difficulty, and your difficulty depended on where you were on a scale from 0 points to 1,000. 1,000 being pro and the highest difficulty, right? Back then, I played the crap out of that, and I had that was the game that I went to almost every day and played, and I double or tripled my time on Wii Sports. Or rather on Resident Evil 4 OG compared to Wii Sports. Resident Evil 4 OG is one of the greatest games I've ever played. For me, when they made the remake, I had high expectations. I was sitting here like, there's no way they're going to make a game better than the original RE4. Ladies and gentlemen, I was wrong. I came in thinking there was no shot that I was going to play a game better than the original. And I walked away baffled because the graphics weren't just better. The game wasn't just held true to the same standard the original had. They made the game better in the ways that it was so bad in previous iterations. Ashley was so much better of a character, and she was so much better of an NPC when you actually needed to run around in combat. She wouldn't just stand still or follow you. Wait, follow me. Wait, follow me. That was so annoying. And although it made sense for an old game like that because everything was so clunky, it needed a revamp. And in the remake, they made her fluent. She never just stood in one place and cowered in fear if there was enemies around her. She would stay low and she would move because that's what you do when you're trying to survive. Resident Evil 4 Remake has amazing gunplay. An additional parry system. We kind of had that in the remake, but you had to time your swipe when a weapon or something that you could actually parry out the air was coming, like an arrow or a weapon was being thrown at you. Excuse me, sorry about that. It wasn't really a parry system, it was an unintentional byproduct of the way the game worked. In Remake, we had a parry system, and I did everything. I did all 101 achievements in that game. I beat the game with an S plus rating, right? I beat the game in permadeath without dying on the hardest difficulty. I've done all kinds of challenge runs on the Separate Ways DLC. I played the Mercenaries and got the S plus plus rating on almost everything. The game, they love that game. They love the original and they love the remake. And I swear to God, they did a great job with that game. Oh, sorry. For me, Remake is an amazing game. Now, I wonder where I want to put it. For me, I think Remake... Yeah, I think Remake is better than Bloodborne. Now, I know that I'm biased because I like the original. I like the original a lot. I'm a big fan of the original. But I believe that the remake had everything the original had. For the most part, there was a few things taken out here and there that they kind of mitigated to the DLC, but that's one of the things I love. The Separate Ways DLC was so bad. I really didn't like the Separate Ways DLC for the original RA4, but the remake, they took everything they took out of the original game and put it into her campaign, and it just made it so much more nostalgic and better. In my opinion, playing as Ada in Separate Ways, which I also did a permadeath run on the hardest difficulty and streamed it live on my channel, just like I did the remake as well on the hardest difficulty and streamed that live. And Ada for me is infinitely more fun than Leon. Overall, they did a great job with this game, man. I can't tell you enough. I was so satisfied with what they did. I played this game into oblivion. I have 280 hours, I have nearly 300 hours, and I played this game the entire time on the PS5. On a controller. Everything that I've done has been on a controller. I've had hand cams. Obviously, I got the face cam here, and I've got the microphone. I even at one point before I had this arm that you see here, I was putting the microphone here and resting it on my shirt. I was dedicated anything to make this game happen because I had a really good time with it. And although it's not an open world, although the game can be rather short depending on how fast you play, because you can beat it in less than 5.5 hours on the hardest difficulty, the replayability with the challenges, I've seen all kinds of challenge runs. The no damage professional run, permadeath, no save. I've seen the what is it? I've seen so like knife only, pistol only. I've seen so many different runs. The berserker mods, just mods in general for this game. This game has so much to it that's fan made and company made that they did a great job with this game, and I would put it up there high A for me. That's my opinion. I know a lot of people might differ. Okay, from the Resident Evil glaze to the Resident Evil poop show. Resident Evil 6. All right, guys. I told you. I came into the series during 4, 5, and 6. I started at 4, played 5, played 6. From that perspective, somebody who came into the series during an action RPG shooter, RE6 improved upon 4 and 5 in so many ways I can't even explain it. The sliding mechanic, the staying on the ground, the moving while shooting. These are all things we never had in a Resident Evil up until this point. We had the melee system. We had a stamina system. The worst thing about RE6, in my opinion, was that they took away the horror and the menuing was bull crap. Being like having a cross menu where you could only go left or up or right or down. That was the worst system I'd ever seen. Where's my box? Why couldn't I have 10 boxes and I could just move through them like you have in every other Resident Evil game? That was my biggest complaint. Because No Hope difficulty was difficult. The items in the game were scarce. The enemies, there was a lot of variance. I had a good time with it. And it introduced co-op, which 5 was the first one to do that, at least that I know of. And 5 was fun, but the clunkiness of the stationary gameplay, the tank-like controls, was really, really tough, right? 6 had the gameplay ramped up to 10, and it had multiplayer. You had the regular enemies. You had not enemies. You had the regular gameplay. You had the mercenaries. You had I don't know what it was called, but it was humans versus monsters. They had so many different variations in this game that it was such a good game if you didn't have the Resident Evil name stamped on the front of it. It improved on everything the others did besides horror, which is the whole name of the game. So for me, I like this game a lot. I'm a big fan. If it wasn't Resident Evil, but it was like zombies and more, if that was the title, this game would be up there for me. So let's be fair. It's not a good Resident Evil game, but it's a good action shooter. It's a good multiplayer game. It's a good co-op game. It just fails in the areas of horror that the predecessors didn't. So I don't want to hate it too much. I will put it here. A middle of the pack B. I liked it. I didn't like it more than Call of Duty Black Ops or God of War. Definitely not Ratchet & Clank Prototype or the OG God of War, Chains of Olympus or Ghost of Sparta. But I still think it's not as bad as everyone says. And I think people need to give it a better try as a co-op shooter. If you have a friend and you just forget the idea that it's a Resident Evil game, it's actually not as bad as you make it out to be. I just want to put that out there. Okay. Moving away from the controversy a little bit. Wuthering Waves. See, this one is weird because I don't really remember this platinum because I wasn't going for it. Let me explain. Unlike, hold on, I need to put some Blistex on. My lips are screaming at me. Okay, so unlike all of these other games where I was going for the platinum, I wasn't going for the platinum on Wuthering Waves. The reason why? It was a mobile game. So before the game came out on PlayStation, it was only available for PC and mobile. And because I had a PlayStation 5 and had planned to play it on such because they announced that it would be on that in a future update, I was in the boat of like, do I wait and fall behind in the meta? Or do I just start playing on my mobile device until it's time to move over to the PlayStation? I decided to do the second one. So I had played 7-ish months. I think it was about 7 months before they released it on PlayStation 5. And playing it on PlayStation 5, or rather playing it on mobile for 7 months, got me a lot of achievements that when I finally was able to download it and log into my profile, a million trophies popped at once, like ding, 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 like right away, because I had 7 months of gameplay on it. And I think around that time, like within 2 to 3 weeks of me getting on PlayStation, I platinumed a trophy because one of the last trophies I needed was to get 36 stars or 30 stars at the time in the Tower of Adversity, which is their end game. That's one of the last things that I hadn't done yet. And with Carlotta's release 2.0 and me getting her S6, that was the catalyst for me to finally finish TOA because I had enough pulls to get enough teams, yada, yada, yada. So I kind of did it by accident. Like, it wasn't done on purpose. I didn't go for the platinum. I just kind of inadvertently got it. So I don't necessarily view it as like a trophy, like a game that I actually got a platinum on purposefully. So I think for that reason, I don't even know how much fun it was. Like, it was just kind of done on mobile periodically over 7 months. And I didn't even play it seriously for the first month. I had it downloaded on my phone, but for like 2 or 3 weeks, I didn't even open the app. And then when I opened the app, I didn't even use my stamina or unlock stamina for like another 2 weeks. It wasn't until like that first month in that I actually started playing the game and using my stamina on a daily basis. So that's why I had played for 7 months, but it was right around that 6th month when I was able to 30 star the TOA. So Wuthering Waves to me, I mean, it wasn't really that much fun. Like, I would say it was better than Darksiders, but it wasn't a game that I found myself actually going for a platinum for. So because of that, I got a docket for points. Not because it's a bad game. Let me explain something to you guys. I have about 1,000 hours into Wuthering Waves, and it's been 2 years that it's been out now. So each year I've put about 500 hours into the game, and I'm loving it. The newest character, Hiyuki, some of the old characters like Augusta in 2.6, Ayuno in 2.6, the 2.0 when we had Carlotta, the maps, the flight, the gameplay, the graphical fidelity, they're doing a great job. So I don't want you to like this is the platinum list, right? How much fun and how hard was it to get the platinum is kind of the two criteria I've been going after. I didn't even try. Although I had a lot of fun, I didn't even try to get the platinum. Darksiders 3, I did by accident. So you can see why these two are going to be there. And then in terms of fun, I had way more fun with Wuthering Waves than I did Darksiders, which is why it's ahead. So that's going to be that. Now, guys, moving on to the big one. God of War 2018. We have 0 S rank platinums. That changes today. God of War 2018 did everything right. It is a 9.8, 9.9 out of 10 game for me. We came from Kratos absolutely slaughtering the gods of Olympus, right? He fulfilled his revenge. He took out Zeus, and he walked away from Greek mythology with his integrity intact, right? To finish off the cycle, to ensure there were no more gods of Olympus, he tried to kill himself. He tried to kill himself in Minecraft, and he tried to take his own life. Even Kratos can't take his own life. Because cut to, we'll call it 10 plus years later, and Kratos found a new woman. A woman who was able to settle him down, mature him into a man, into a real man, not just a warrior or a brute, as he had been trained his whole life to be. He had a son with her, his second time having a wife and a child. He vowed to do it differently. If you remember, he was tricked into killing his own wife and daughter by one of the gods of Greek mythology, Ares to be exact. Excuse me. To get over that and to finally have another family and another wife he cared about was a big step for Kratos. The entire God of War 2018 is rewriting an entire trilogy. But it's not just a trilogy, it's like 6 games, because you're talking about all 3 games, God of War 1, 2, and 3, Chained to Olympus, Ghost of Sparta, and Ascension. Oh my god, the worst timing for an ad.
All you have to do is come more than once.
It is rewriting 6 games of trauma that this man has felt in one game wrapped up in one beautiful package. Kratos had a complete revamping of a main character. He went through some of the craziest character development I have ever seen. He was no longer just a brute who was reliant on his rage and brute strength. He was a man who thought. A man of many words turned to a man of none. He didn't let his mouth do the talking, he let his brain do the thinking. His body reacted, it didn't act. He was there to defend what was precious to him. He wasn't there to destroy and seek revenge. Kratos in 2018's God of War is my second favorite rendition of Kratos in the God of War franchise. They did this man justice. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. I'm just gonna say it right now. God of War 2018 is a masterpiece. It deserves all the 10 out of 10 ratings it got. The world is beautiful and vibrant. The enemies are plethorable. The worst part about it is that a lot of the boss battles are the big trolls. They didn't have a variety of enemies. That's why I give it a 9.8 out of 10. That's the only fault I can think of. The story, the slow pacing, the graphics, the gameplay, the character development between father and son, who at the time just feel like 2 dudes living under the same roof, and by the end they have a connection that feels unbreakable. I can't explain it enough. It's a masterpiece, and if you haven't played it, you need to. It's that good, it's that great, and it's better than Ragnarok in my opinion. It's not even on the same level. God of War 2018 is our first S rank into the series. Okay, now that the Glades is over, And I've been fair. I've been fair. Look, I've got some God of War games in B, A, and S. I've been very fair. I think I've been incredibly fair. God of War is still my favorite series for Greek mythology and Norse mythology of all time. But I think they did it right with 2018. Now, Need for Speed Hot Pursuit. Ladies and gentlemen, Need for Speed Hot Pursuit. I kind of glazed it a lot when I was talking about Need for Speed Rivals. So I don't want to touch too much on it. I think it was good, but it was a racing game. Let's be honest, it was a racing game. And racing games, in my opinion, don't deserve to be above some of these other games because I feel like they're relatively easier to develop. And that's why we get a freaking Need for Speed every year. I'm just going to say it. It was fun. It was the introduction to the cops, and it was the introduction to some of the abilities, or rather all of the abilities. But it's just not better than most of these games. I have to be fair. And the same thing with this next game. Need for Speed Most Wanted. For me, it was a fun game to play in co-op. It was open world, kind of, but it just wasn't really big enough. It wasn't vibrant enough, and it didn't have enough of those long highways we talked about for you to really hit maximum speed. The other two games had a lot of those. You had those in Need for Speed Rivals. There was a cross in the middle, and then there was the outer edge. The outer edge is always highways, right? Need for Speed Hot Pursuit, same thing. Outer edge was pretty much the whole game was highways. That was the downside of it. Most Wanted, again, I think it was the outer edge was highways, but it really was just a bunch of side streets. You were more so in the thick of it. It was about drifting. It was about weaving in and out of buildings and traffic. The game wasn't meant to go at max speed for 5 minutes straight in a race like you were in the other two games. The other two games, you would be in a race for 10 to 15 minutes straight, going 250 miles per hour the entire time. You don't do that in Most Wanted. It's all about bobbing and weaving, which I found to not be too much fun. So for me, Most Wanted, I liked it more than Darksiders. Darksiders is probably one of my least favorites. I would give it that. I think Rivals is the best. I think Hot Pursuit is close behind it. I think Most Wanted was kind of just like a game I actually remember I asked my mother if I could use her credit card because I got this game on the PSP Vita. It was $5 on the PSP Vita store. And I was like, hey, Mom, because at the time I was young. I was living under her roof and I was a child, you know? I was like, hey, Mom, this is $5. Would you mind buying this for me? I thought she would say no. She said yes. I couldn't believe it. So, excuse me. In a way, I felt like I needed to, live up to the fact that my mother let me use her credit card by playing the heck out of it. And I did, and I platinumed it. But I don't think it was really that amazing. It definitely was overhyped in my opinion. And if I could take it back, I mean, I probably would because it wasn't that good of a game. Okay. God dang it, Bobby. Another banger. Prototype 2 did the exact same thing that Prototype 1 did. But in this world, you're now fully in tune with what is happening, right? Alex Mercer, which is the main character in the first game, is fully aware of what's going on, and he's actually trying to create an army of superhumans like himself to go against like the army, so he can eventually be the ruler of this new world where everyone has the power that he has, obviously to a lesser degree. And he ends up giving that power to this guy. I forgot his name now, but the guy who's on the little avatar down there, and he actually is an army commander himself. Or not a commander, I think he's just like an army grunt, like a, bottom of the barrel kind of guy. And he is defiant against Mercer the entire time. And he goes and kind of like tries to figure out what Mercer's plan is because Mercer's preaching to him the gospel, basically. Like, I'm trying to right our wrongs and these people are the bad people. We're just trying to survive and blah, 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 blah. And him doing his own research and never fully trusting Mercer, he finds out that not only was it Mercer who released the virus to have a second outbreak after they defeated it, to have a second outbreak, it was Mercer who did that and lied, saying that it was these other guys at like biotech or something like that. He also was the one who was manipulating you into doing his bidding while he was trying to basically exterminate the human race. so he can only make superhumans. And this guy is like, you're effed up in the mind. You don't deserve to be, you know, king of this world. And I'm gonna stop you here. And you go into a 1v1 battle using the same weaponry that he has, in this crazy like alpha versus alpha moment. It was cinema. Absolute cinema. The open world was great. It was fun. And the entire time I was having a blast. I was yelling and screaming, having a good time. I'm telling you right now, it's an underrated game, and it's better than the original. The graphics are better, the gameplay is better, the open world is better. If you want a fun open world experience, it's right there for you. Okay, moving on to Resident Evil 3 Remake. A lot of you hate this game. Why? Well, you think that Resident Evil 3 specifically doesn't deserve its flowers because you played the original. And don't get me wrong, after I found out what the original had, I'm a little let down too, because I didn't know the original had like a choice system that would change the game, had multiple endings, had a much longer story by like 3 times the amount. All of these things I didn't know about because I started playing it 4. Sorry guys, like my eye is like screaming at me. What is going on here? Is my AC on too? It feels kind of like hot in here. I'm actually gonna like take this off, I think. So yeah, I started playing at 4. And at 4, for me, 3 Remake was amazing. I was like, whoa, like this game is so much fun. The gameplay is great. The story is good. It's just a fun game. I ended up platinuming it because its replayability was a harder difficulty. You beat the game on hard, then you unlock Nightmare. You beat the game on Nightmare, then you unlock, you know, Professional, and then you beat the game on Professional, and then you unlock Inferno, which is the hardest difficulty in the game. And it's genuinely hard. The final boss 1 or 2 taps you, even if you have the defense coins and, you know, the everything that you could possibly have to increase your defense, you're still dying in 2 hits. And it staggers you if it hits you once, so it's going to hit you 2 times, 9 out of 10 times. It was a very difficult battle, and I appreciate that. What is going on right now? Sorry guys, I got an ad here again. I'm so sorry. There we go. I should have done an ad-free one. Okay, so yeah. So long story short, coming from a Resident Evil 4 mindset, I like the game a lot. Knowing what I know now about the OG RE3, a lot left to be desired. I think they really wanted to get the 4 bad because they realized how good they were going to make it. So they kind of just tried to skirt past 3 as fast as possible, and they kind of left a lot left to be desired, especially for a $70 game. So I think they dropped the bag here. All right, let's just be honest. They dropped the bag. But giving them their flowers to an extent. Sorry, hold on. Can I move this up? Yeah, there we go. I think it was a good game for what it was, but it wasn't worth $70. Where do I put this? I think it was better than Need for Speed, but it was short. Was it better than 6? I think 3 was better than 6. I don't think it was better than Black Ops though. Black Ops was really good. Yeah, we're gonna leave it like that. I think that's a fair rendition. So 3 was definitely better than 6 for sure. We'll put it middle of the pack. Don't kill me if you hate this game. Don't kill me, please. Oh my god, DMC Devil May Cry. Now I know Devil May Cry got like a remake, and this was the new Devil May Cry guy, right? I had never played any Devil May Cries until this one. DMC Devil May Cry was my first Devil May Cry, and holy cow, this game was fun. It was crazy. It was stylish. It was all about angels and demons, and you're coming in just completely annihilating them. Sorry, I really need to get a drink here. You'd be hard pressed to realize how like dry your throat can get. So my first Devil May Cry was this game, and I loved it. I couldn't believe the screaming, savage, stylish, you know, sensational when you would get like the SSS ratings, how the fluent the combat was, the gameplay was. I had a blast, an absolute blast playing this game, and I freaking loved it, if I'm being honest. And the replayability, don't even get me started on it. Just like RE3, when you beat the game, a harder difficulty unlocked, but it wasn't just they do more damage, you take more damage, you do less damage. It wasn't like that. It was like, oh, you're gonna play Heaven and Heaven, which is everyone dies by one hit. You die by one hit, every enemy you fight dies in one hit. Oh, you beat that? We're gonna give you Heaven and Hell. You die by one hit, they have double their health, or they have full health. And so you have to fight them basically one hit the entire time. I was like, this is crazy. Like, some of these battles were insane to not be hit a single time. You had to be extremely skilled, and I was doing it, loving it. I'm a challenge runner at heart. I challenge myself in ways that other people don't even think of. I play Horizon Forbidden West, and I have 200 skill points at the end of the game when I beat it on ultra hard difficulty because I didn't want to make the game too easy for myself. I do little things like that to make the game harder on myself because I want a challenge. I like doing things that are hard. It's fun, it's exhilarating, and it makes me feel like I'm actually doing something. So for me, DMC was a great game. It was fun, it delivered in the difficulty, it delivered in graphics, it delivered in music, and it delivered in gameplay. Excuse me, it was beautiful. Where would I rate it though? DMC, for me? Oh, it's right up here, I would say. Is it better than Second Son though? Did I enjoy this game more than Second Son? I think I enjoyed Second Son more, but like just barely. I'm gonna keep it there for now. That is a beautiful game. I'm gonna keep it an A. I think it was absolutely insane. Let's just be fair and honest. I think it belongs there. God of War 2. Oh my gosh. The first God of War game I ever played was God of War Chains of Olympus on the PSP. The backstory. I was a kid. I'm like 10, 8, 9, somewhere in there. I have no idea. I'm in like 4th or 5th grade in elementary school. And my friend comes up to me. He says, hey, you gotta see this. It's insane. He shows me his PSP. He is literally spamming buttons and doing a certain act for a mature audience with women. And I was like, holy crap, that's amazing, because I'm like 8 years old, and at this point I was starting to have a little more testosterone and blood pumping in places that shouldn't have been. Okay, let's just be honest, I was a child. So I remember I was like, I need this game. I need this game because I want to see that in my own privacy. I don't want to get too much into it. I was a freaking little child, okay? Long story short, somehow I convinced my mom to let me get this game at like 9 years old. We went to GameStop. I asked if we can go to GameStop. She said yes. And I pulled this game off the shelves. And I said, Mom, I want this game. And she's like, okay, no problem. We go to the counter and the guy is like, looks at me, looks at the case, looks at my mom. He's like, this is an M-rated game. Are you sure? And she's like, yeah, I don't really care, whatever. He's like, are you sure? Like, this is a... He's like basically trying to convince her that I should not be playing this game. And I'm sitting there like, shut up, don't stop it. You know, like, I'm like, please stop. Don't rat me out right now. You're a gamer, I'm a gamer. Come on, bro. My mom was very dismissive, like, yeah, whatever. So it was one of the few times in my life I was like, thank you, Lord, for the one time that my mom not giving a flying fork worked in my favor. Because anytime that you buy a game that's M-rated, at least in the United States, and its maturity rating is 17 and up. If you're not 17 years old or up, you have to have an adult guardian give you consent to buy it. So my mom had to approve it, and she kind of just dismissed him and approved it without even realizing what she had done, because a little boy like 9-10-year-old me went home with an M-rated game that had nudity, blood, gore, violence, all of this stuff, and I got to play this game because of my mom not caring. It was the greatest day of my life. Okay, I'm just gonna say that. I came for the antics, and I left in love with Kratos and the gameplay. And that moment was what sparked me as a God of War fan for the rest of my life. So, after I played the crap out of that game, beat it too many times to count, including on very hard difficulty, which was called God mode, and in the time when trophies were released for these games, the game was considered so hard that they didn't even give you a trophy for beating it on the hardest difficulty. That was there purely for your own enjoyment / your own masochist self. So, I always beat them on the hardest difficulty just because I wanted to, because I liked the games that much and I relished in the challenge. So the second God of War game that I ever played was God of War 2. What the heck? Why is there a NASCAR going by? Hold on, more ads. Sorry, guys. Okay, so the second game that I ever played was God of War 2. Long story short, I got this game on PS2, and at this point I was a lot older now. I was like 13, 14, and my mom knew at this point that I was playing games, all kinds of games. She didn't really care. She gave me the okay again. So I was able to buy this game, and yet again I had a little bit of that, antics in it, but my god, the game was amazing. It was graphically, it was 3 times better than the original first one. And the gameplay, the story, you are Kratos, who finds out that his father, you call him father, he betrays you. He tricks you into bestowing your godly powers, because basically what happened is you are still mad that after killing Ares and taking the throne as a new God of War, you're still mad at the gods, so you're taking out your rage on the people as you fall into earth and you keep destroying city after city after city. The gods are saying you're creating chaos and they're not happy with you. You're like, I don't care. You guys screwed me over. I'm taking out my rage. So eventually they decide to turn on you. And they trick you by stealing your powers, putting it into a big machine or a big statue on the arena, and then they trick you into saying the only way you can beat it now, since you're a human, is by placing your godly powers into the Blade of Olympus, which is what ended the Great War between the gods and the Titans. If you take that blade, place your godly powers into it, then you can use that weapon to defeat him. You do that, however, you are now just a human with a god weapon. You're no longer a god, and you get severely beaten and bloodied as you eventually defeat the foe. Zeus comes down in your weakened state and basically just slaughters you and is like, you're either going to submit to me and do my will, or you're going to die here. Kratos, being the proud general that he is, says, I submit to no one. And he says, then you choose death. And he stabs you through your stomach, right? You end up getting taken down to Hades, and the Titans actually find you, telepathically talk to you, and tell you hey, we're here for you. We're willing to fight with you. We can save you, and we can revert time to before this happened, because he had wiped out all of the Spartans that were remaining, and basically his entire lineage and heritage was gone in a flash. So you go on this whole adventure where you're moving through all of the Greek mythology. You're on this Pegasus, flying to this island, and you're moving these big statues, running along these chains, just doing this crazy thing, eventually so you can make your way to the Sisters of Fate. And the Sisters of Fate do not grant you what you're looking for, which is to go back in time and revert what happened. So you have to fight them, kill them, steal their power, and go back to the moment when you were getting killed and come back and basically brush him off of you, take the Blade of Olympus in full health, and now have a 1v1 duel against Zeus, which you eventually best him with a little bit of trickery, and Athena comes in at the last moment when you're about to land the final blow and stab him through the chest. She jumps in front of the blade, pushes him out the way, and gets herself stabbed. It was one of the craziest, oh my god moments I've ever had in gaming. And the icing on the cake was after she died, he tells you that God after God will defy you your vengeance. Kratos basically vows, if God after God will deny me my vengeance, then God after God will die. He's tired of doing the God's bidding. This is the end. He uses the power that he got from the Sisters of Fate. He goes back in time even further, all the way to when the Titans and the gods were in the Great War fighting each other. And just before they're wiped out with the weapon that Kratos now has, the Blade of Olympus, he teleports them all back to his current time. And he starts a second Great War where the Titans are now scaling Mount Olympus. And they are coming to start a second Great War with the son of Zeus, because he finds out that his father is Zeus, and the Blade of Olympus that ended up stopping the Great War in his possession. It was the craziest cliffhanger ever because the game ended like that. I was like, I can't wait for 3. And 3 picks up exactly at that moment where the cliffhanger ends, the game begins. The game starts, and you're on the back of Gaia, and you hear, Ting! Zeus, your son has returned. I bring the destruction of Olympus. And it's like, you're immediately thrown into the action. The Titans will fail again. And you see Helios comes in and throws some sun stuff, and you got all of these all of these skeleton warriors, and you're just going crazy, and Poseidon jumps into the ocean, and now he's this big tentacle horse-like shell crab creature, and you're fighting him on the back of Gaia, and it was insane. All I'm saying is God of War 2 set the standard for what a sequel should be. It was amazing. I loved God of War 2. It's still to this day one of my favorite God of Wars. If I had to rate them, I don't want to ruin it, because I still got my favorite coming up. But if I had to rate them, this is like top 3 God of Wars for me. It was that good. God of War 2 was amazing, and I'm excited for the remake when they do the trilogy. For me, God of War 2, I think I liked it more. 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 I have to do it right there. God of War 2 for me is no joke a top 3. It's amazing. Did I like it more than Ragnarok though? I guess it'd have to be top 4 then. Either way, it's a great freaking game. God of War 2 is underrated because of its graphics and how much fun that game was, and the story, top notch. Freaking loved it. You got to give this game a play if you haven't played. When the original trilogy gets remade, if it is, I'm gonna play them and I'm gonna platinum them. And I'm gonna tell you right now, if it doesn't hold true to the standard that was set from the previous games, I'm gonna be upset. And I'm gonna make a video about it, and I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna explain literally every detail that's different, frame by frame, sentence by sentence, because I'm gonna know everything probably more than anybody out there. I'm the biggest God of War fan, and I will know if they did anything different or if they stayed true to it, like the RE4 remake. I'm gonna be keeping a close eye. I'm excited and optimistic, but I swear to God, they better not F this up. This better be some Resident Evil 4 remake BS and not some RE3 remake BS, because if I get a game where they just chopped it all down to make a profit, and they don't actually care or honor where we came from, I'm gonna be very upset. And I'm telling you right now, I will make a video on it. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and turn the bell on for notifications if you want to see that eventually in the future, because I will be here when that happens. You have my word. Anyways, great game, amazing game. You gotta honor it, okay? Now, Uncharted 3, Drake's Deception. I'm gonna go ahead and tell you right now, all the Uncharteds were amazing. The first one was clunky, the second one was smooth, and the third one, in my opinion, was the best because they took everything and ramped it up to 11. As you can see, I have Uncharted 1, 2, and 3 on here, and I loved it. All of it. Every little bit of it. I was in love with it the entire time. For me, Uncharted 3 is the best of the trilogy, the 3 trilogy, because there's a 4th one, but I didn't platinum that one yet because I haven't even beaten that one yet. Uncharted 3 is a run and gun, cover by cover shooter that gets harder and harder with like higher difficulties each time you beat the game. I've always liked those games and not liked them. I have a love-hate relationship because I like the fact that it has replayability, but I don't like that I can't choose the hardest difficulty right away, that I have to beat the game in order to challenge a harder difficulty. I didn't like that, but I do like that there's harder difficulties and they're relatively challenging.
Organic almond milk. Irresistibly good. With just almonds,
Organic almond milk. Oh my gosh. Nope. I don't want this, and I'm not trying to get copyright struck. Thank you very much. Okay, so long story short, Uncharted 3, amazing game. But how much did I like it compared to some of these other ones? I think it belongs right around here. Did I like Ratchet and Clank more than Uncharted 3? I think I did. I think that's a fair placement of it. I think Uncharted 3 was great, but I think it's held back by the high expectations that it's supposed to be something amazing, that it's supposed to be something great. And by today's standard, it falls off a cliff. So, great game. I think it's the best in the series, besides 4, because I haven't beaten it yet. I think 4 actually had great multiplayer, but I didn't play the others for multiplayer, so I'm talking strictly from story-based. I gotta be fair, and I enjoyed a lot of games more than Uncharted. Infamous, the original. Okay. Infamous 2 was a lot of fun. Infamous Second Son was a lot of fun. Infamous was my introduction to the series. Poor graphics, amazing gameplay. Had the same decision-making mechanic where if you could choose to be good or bad, you could choose to attack people, or you could choose to help them, depending on if it was like a drug bust or depending on if it was a protesting group of people. You could choose to do things that were impacting the way the story went. What holds this game back is the illustrated cutscenes. Everything was like a picture book. You would flip a page and that would be the next scene. It was very static, it was very still, and that's why I struggled with the story aspect of it, even though there was a good and bad mechanic where you could be that, and you would have blue lightning if you were good, you would have red if you were bad. People would cheer you or boo you depending on if you were good or bad. All of these things affected the gameplay and affected the story, but I had a really hard time with the story's picture book style. So because of that, I have to rate it a little bit lower than I would like. For me, better than all those. It's better. Infamous was better. I would say here. Infamous is still a really good game. It's kind of similar to like the Prototype series. Open world, like run and gun action shooter kind of thing. But I just think that its graphics and its story holds it back from some of the other ones here. Oh man, the original Dead Space. We're talking about OG Dead Space, not Dead Space Remake, OG Dead Space. Oh man, I like this game a lot. Fun fact about this game, 10/25, December 25th, the 12/25, I meant not 10/25, December 25th, 2010 was the first time that I had a PS3. I was gifted it for Christmas, right? God of War 3, along with a few other games, were on that list. Dead Space was one of them. I had Dead Space for like 6 months before I actually tried it. I didn't play this game for a long time because I hadn't watched any horror. I hadn't watched or played any horror games. I was kind of like a wimp when it came to horror things. The backstory behind that. When I was like 10 years old, my mother's husband, right? My stepfather, took me to the movie theaters to see Dawn of the Dead in movie theaters. I'm 10 years old. That movie, if you haven't seen it, is iconic to today. I'm talking, I mean, spoilers, right? If you don't want to hear this, spoilers, skip ahead like 1 minute. I'm going to do it now, so this is your last warning. That movie had everything from zombie apocalypse to zombie babies to enemy to stalking zombies. The mall being like a safe zone but corrupt cops within it. It just touched on all the stuff. You had a man across the street who was like communicating via signs, and they were even playing board games. Like, it was such a unique take on a zombie movie that I hadn't even heard of or even thought of or seen up until that point, and still holds true today. I think that movie screwed me up bad though for horror, because I didn't watch any horror or play any horror for years. I'm talking about like until I was in my early to mid 20s. And so this game, I had a hard time getting on the bandwagon of playing. I was scared to play it because I had 2 weeks of nightmares when I went home after watching that movie with my stepfather. I had 2 weeks of nightmares. I couldn't stop seeing the zombies. It was insane. I was like genuinely scared. And so that movie screwed me up that I didn't even want to watch or interact with any horror for a long time. Eventually, I grew some stones and I was like, be a man. You can play it. Let's do it already. Just do it. So I did. I'm also going to move my camera real fast because I think we can now be in a better spot that's not blocking the tiers at the top. Look good? Okay. So I told myself, be a man. Let's go. You can play it. Don't be afraid. This is nothing. And so that's exactly what I did. I love this game. Isaac Clarke is the man. He's basically like a mechanic who came to fix a ship, turned badass. He's a guy who comes in there. He uses his plasma cutter as a weapon, starts dismembering limbs and picking up with his what was it called? The grapple module, whatever. He's statusing people, making them stop or go really slow. He's picking up their limbs. He's shooting them back at them. He's picking up bombs. He's blowing off their limbs. It was the craziest action shooter that I ever saw. A lot of the horror games of today is more based on psychological horror, or is based on minuscule horror, where like it's all about trying to adjust your weapons or your armor or your hiding spots, your escape routes. It's all about like trying to find a way out and avoiding conflict. This game relishes in the fact of you jumping in and fighting your way out. It's gonna be scary. You're gonna hear, things above you. You're gonna hear things below you. Hear things crawling in the vents, roaring in the distance, items dropping. You're gonna hear weird creaks and sounds. But when that jump scare happens and you start blasting, you have the ammo to fight back. They make sure of that. And so this game was the perfect introduction to horror for me, to make me actually fall in love with horror in general, where now I play horror games all the time. I watch horror movies all the time, and I pretty much dedicated to this game right here. This game was a blast, and I loved it. So, where do we rank Dead Space? Our first horror game on the list, because Resident Evil 4 was definitely not horror. 4 Remake was not really horror, and 3 wasn't horror as well. Do I rate Dead Space higher than these games? OG Dead Space? I think OG Dead Space for me is like here. Yeah, I think OG Dead Space is about there for me. Okay, here we go, guys. I know I got a lot in B. B's starting to get a little big now, but it is what it is. Uncharted 2, we're going to make this quick and easy. I haven't played these games in a long time, so I don't remember the story as well as a lot of these games. So for this one, it's quick, easy, and to the point. Oh my god. Resident Evil 2 for me? Oh my god, hold on, sorry guys, I'm almost done with this stupid ad here. Okay. Uncharted 2 for me is a step down from Uncharted 3, but it's a step up from Uncharted 1. It basically did what every game should when you're in a sequel, is go up and improve the bar and raise the bar. Go up and improve the bar. So 1, 2, and 3 are literally as such in that order, where I think that it's directly behind it, but in the exact same spot as 3. Boom, just like that. I enjoyed 2 a lot, but it's not better than 3. It belongs in the middle of the pack, let's be honest. Okay. It's time for the biggest controversy of them all. God of War Ascension. My least favorite God of War out of the entire series and franchise. This game was cheeks for me. Why? Because they basically had the best graphics in the series, and you would think that would be a good thing, right? But it led to some weird moments. Like, the graphics were so good that they couldn't get the CGI rendering of 2 objects together to come together well, and it looked odd with the high graphics. For instance, there's a touching moment, because this game is supposed to be a prequel to everything. It's supposed to be before the entire games, like the first game in the series chronologically. And there's a scene where Kratos comes into his home and he kisses his daughter on the cheek while she's sleeping. Her name was Penelope. And she's laying here, and I'm going to show you what happens. He goes, like, the sound plays like as he's pulling back. He clearly was like multiple inches away from her, and it just looked awkward. And for a man who the entire other 5 games at that point, this was the last game that we got before 2018, he was a brute like warrior who was just like slaughtering gods without remorse and completely just glorifying everything in his path. It was a step back that was welcome but unexpected. So I was a little bit sad that it wasn't done as well, in my opinion, right? So other things that I have problems with: the build-up system, the the like ultimate, right? As you would attack, you'd only like he always had the Chains of Olympus, and in this game he has them as well. But he only has like a 3 or 4 hit combo. I think it's a 3 hit combo. He does swipe, 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 and that's it. That's all he does. Then he just stands there, right? And he repeats the combo if you start hitting square again. You only unlock his full square combo or triangle combo when you keep attacking consistently and that bar builds up. As that bar builds up, as you keep attacking, you finally unlock his full combo and like, you know, additional damage. I did not like that system. I was not a fan of that. And although it did add different layers of like different layers of difficulty, it was not a welcome difficulty increase. Some things they did right. When enemies were in the air, he no longer was set to attack in a straight pattern. If an enemy was knocked into the air, he would start attacking up and hitting them, kind of keeping them suspended in the air. That was a welcome change that needed to happen all the games prior. That it didn't happen in any of the other games, and I wish that it did. But the graphics being so good and having those weird cutscenes were kind of tough, right? The attacking system I didn't like, and now here's the biggest one. One of the biggest things that I liked that they did different. It was the first God of War game to introduce 2 enemies at the same time. You were on multiple occasions, you were fighting 2 bosses. The most notable that I remember is the one that sets the tone at the beginning. You fight the Hecatoncheires, I believe is the name, and then he's basically just like, he kind of looks like a weird like slither monster. Like he's got like a long elongated body, right? That kind of moves like this, and then he has his arms that kind of like are, you know, like I don't know how to explain it. He's got like blades on his arms, and he has his head, and it's got like spikes in his mouth, and he's just kind of like fighting you on this platform, right? As he kind of like moves around. But little did you know that entire time that you've been fighting this monster, it's actually just part of the entire arena, because the entire arena that you've been fighting on was this giant monster that's just been encapsulated, and the enemy that's really the boss that you're fighting keeps putting these little like parasites into him that keep activating the monster in like her form, right? And so at one point you're on this flat platform, like this flat platform right here, and you've got that arm that you've been fighting the entire 10 or 15 minutes through the entire arena, and now the true beast awakens, and he's attacking on one side on the platform, the other one's over here, and you're like blocking and attacking, and you're like going back and forth between the two on this like small little platform. It's crazy. The scale was out of this world, but it leads to some odd movement in the game, where like it feels almost unfair, because it's the first time that you fight 2 enemies at once, and they don't do it too often, even in the Norse mythology ones. I think there was like the Magnus and Modi you fought in 2018, but it was rare. Like you didn't fight 2 enemies at once too often, 2 bosses at once, and I think they realized because it was like very difficult, and it's like hard to execute 2 big monsters because they're big, they're known for scale, they're big on scale. Having them attack you at the same time, it's very hard to like get it all to work out while also being fair for the player. So I understand. I liked it. I know a lot of people didn't, but I just really couldn't get past the story in this game. I felt like the story was kind of lackluster. I really didn't like that attacking system, how I had to unlock my combo. Like it was so weird. If you're gonna make me unlock a combo, like it just felt so pointless at that point, because every time I started a battle, it would just be swipe, 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 swipe. Oh, now I'm strong. Swipe, 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 swipe. Like it just felt so like the pacing of the battles were so bad in my opinion. Because of that, it's my least favorite God of War. So where do I place this? Oh, I hate to do it. God of War Ascension was so much fun, but was it better than... Was that an ad? Oh my god. I didn't even notice because I was in the thick of it right now. Man. God of War Ascension being lower than RE6 and Resident Evil 3. Do I like it more? I think I like it more than those 2 games. Yeah, I like it more than those two games. RE3 and RE6, I liked Ascension more, but I think Black Ops, Infamous, yeah, I think these games are better, including the original God of War. It's my least favorite by far. Okay, I'm happy with that. All right, on to Infamous 2. Infamous 2 for me was a huge upgrade over over the original. I don't think we were in story anymore. I don't remember. It's been a long time. If we were, I didn't feel it. I don't remember it. The gameplay was a little bit better. It was definitely all the best parts of the first game, scaled up to 10 with all the same things. You had good and bad routes. You know, you had the blue if you were the good guy, red if you were the bad. You had the crowds that would cheer you or boo you. Story would change, and I believe they were actually CGI. It wasn't like the storybook page flipping like we got in the first game. I believe. I don't remember. Either way, I know that I like the game more than the first one. So for me, I would put it. Did I like it more than God of War though? I think I might have liked it even more than God of War. And I think I liked it more than Uncharted. Yeah, Infamous 2 for me was good. I liked Infamous a lot. I wouldn't put it above Ratchet and Clank and Dead Space, but I think it deserves to be above OG God of War and Uncharted 2 and 3 for sure. Yeah, it was a good game. I remember liking it a lot. I'm pretty happy with that. I think that's good. Okay, oh baby, on to another controversial game. The Last of Us Part 2. Ooh. I almost platinumed the first one. The reason I didn't is because it had multiplayer requirements, which in 2013 my neighbor had no internet passcode, and so I was kind of borrowing that with their consent, of course. So I couldn't really do those trophies, and I didn't want to anyways because I didn't really like The Last of Us multiplayer. But The Last of Us Part 2 was a 2020 game that I ended up playing way later. Like I just recently played it within the last year or two. So 2024 or 2025. I think 2025 is when I experienced it for the first time. I experienced the PS4 version, and I didn't experience the remaster. It was straight up just a part 2 on PS4, the original version, which I believe I have the game somewhere over there. Proof is in the pudding. There it is. Last of Us Part 2 on the PS4. You can see it's got both discs, right? The gameplay and like the bonus features for like the download and all that. Got it all. So there's the proof. That's the version I experienced. And I still loved it. I thought the gameplay was fun. I thought the story was good, but I felt like the story was worse than the first one. I actually think the first Last of Us was better than the second one. Although the second one, excuse me, sorry about that. Although the second one had the Rat King, right? Which, if you don't know what that is, you'll figure it out on your own time, all right? I don't want to explain it, but it was insane. It had like a little bit more horror, I felt like. And the enemies were like unique, and the characters were so much more diverse. I felt like The Last of Us 1 had a beautiful story about Joel and Ellie coming together as like a father-daughter closure moment for Joel, because he didn't have a daughter anymore because of what happened during Outbreak Day. And then for Ellie not really having any father figures at all, having Joel be the only guy or female, just only person who ever stayed in her life during troubling times, they came together and became like a family, like a real family. The Last of Us 2, they, spoilers, immediately, and I mean immediately, slap you across the face and kill off Joel. And then Ellie goes on a revenge tour where she kills everybody involved with what happened outside of their little town. And then she lets the main perpetrator go. I was like, what? The reason why, I know the reason why, it was because they were trying to give her character development where if she killed, what was her name? Abby. If she killed Abby in the final scene, it would have just been the cycle, you know, like basically repeating itself, and nothing would have ever come from that. She wouldn't have grown, she wouldn't have felt better, and we would have had one less character while she had to live with the guilt forever. But she threw away her whole life. I felt like she needed to go all in. Oh my god, I'm getting real tired. The ads are literally every 5 minutes, every 3 minutes at this point.
Here.
No,
observe
no,
the
no, 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 enough.
Human, primitive, over caffeinated.
Hold on. Maybe I can find like an ad-free version because I'm getting really tired of this. Nah, it's fine. We're just gonna have to rock with what we have. Okay. So yeah, I felt like they slapped us across the face as enjoyers of the first game, sent her on her way on a revenge tour. The lesson in the end was revenge doesn't answer everything. I understand that. Abby wanted revenge, which is why they did what they did. Ellie wanted revenge because of what happened to Joel and her. And in the end, nobody really, you know, is going to get what they want if that's the route that they take. I understood the message, but I was really disappointed in how it ended because Ellie lost fingers, right? Got completely destroyed, like mentally and physically. She threw away the happy relationship she had with the one girl with the baby, right? She lost people along the way, like I said. What's his face? Joel's brother Tommy got completely destroyed. Like, he lost an eye. He's lucky to be alive. He's basically a vegetable walking at this point. And it almost felt like it was all in vain, like it was all for nothing. I had like this huge void in my stomach when the game ended and I saw the credits rolling because I didn't know how to feel anymore. It almost felt like we just went on this whole adventure for literally nothing, and they threw out the entire premise of the story, which was she was immune and she could potentially create a cure. So I was like, what is, like, they took the entire story of the first game and threw it out the window to tell us this sad revenge story that really had no impact on anything except for everyone's mental. So I was very conflicted when this game happened. And for me, the biggest like blunder they had was not exploiting in any way, shape, or form her immunity. It was all about her just being a regular human like everyone else, and the psychological side of things, which I had a huge problem with that. So my hypothesis, though, I have a hypothesis that I don't know how many people agree with this. I wonder if when Abby and Ellie were entangled, Ellie actually bit Abby. And if you remember in the first game, Ellie bit that crazy deranged man who was in the leader of that town in the winter, you know, whatever. When Joel was injured, she went off to find the meat, found a deer. That one guy came, he was very creepy, whatever, right? We found out that they were cannibals who were eating humans because the meat supply was running low and they were just chopping up dead and feeding it to everybody without them knowing. So long story short, it was a very effed up time, effed up place. The whole town was delusional, didn't even know it, and their leader was King Delusion himself. And that guy, like, that whole scene right there, she ended up getting like placed on a table, and she used her smarts and bit him to get ended up getting free because of it, because he let go for a second to look at it, and we never got to find out if he was actually infected or not because he ended up dying long before. But that same scenario plays out again with Abby, where Ellie, who is infected, she does have the cordyceps in her body, bites Ellie, and Ellie ends up like walking away because Abby let her, and Abby is fine. We see like 6 months later, or whatever the time skip ends up being, she doesn't have the infection. She's not infected. She's normal. So did Ellie transfer her immune antibodies to Abby? Is Abby now immune to the virus? And can she also potentially sacrifice her life and have the cordyceps removed to create a cure? Just like Ellie? Are there two immunes who can potentially save the world and create a vaccine? I think about that every day. And I think, from my own hypothesis, I think this is a potential storyline where, since they were let go and escaped this town that had them captive for so long, maybe they go to find, before they were captured, the people that they contacted, the Fireflies that were still out there, and they find out that Abby is infected but immune, and now they create the cure from her sacrificing herself. That way, in my opinion, Ellie still gets to live and she survives. You know, after killing Joel, there's no way they kill Abby too, is in my opinion. I feel, or not Abby, Ellie too. I feel like people would riot at that point. So they created two people who are immune, so that way they could still have the human race be saved and Ellie could still survive and live on, is my hypothesis. Okay, I'm kind of off in like theory crafting realm, so whatever. That's what I believe they're headed for the third game. Anyways, this game was great for combat, for stealth, and for difficulty. I have an entire stream of me playing my first playthrough on the hardest difficulty, which is grounded mode, where you have no UI, you can't see how many bullets you have, everything is hidden, and you basically one or two hit the entire game. And I streamed the entire thing beginning to end on grounded difficulty, and I got very upset many times because it's very difficult. You're talking about 20 to 25-minute battles sometimes, where one mistake, because you can't see through walls, you don't have that ability on grounded, or you can't see if you didn't reload, you can't see if you have a brick in your hand. These little things that you normally would have with the regular UI are gone, and you're basically just a paper out there fighting against a pack of wolves who are hungry and haven't eaten in a month. It can be destroying your mental on a level I can't explain. And I like the addition of the ground, right, where you could crawl on all fours and you could actually crawl through the grass, using the grass as cover now too, right? So you can move from area to area in stealth. I enjoyed that addition to the game, on top of the regular crouch walking, stealth kills, and so on and so forth. The arrows, like you had the bow and arrows, right? That was also good for stealth. I enjoyed this game through and through. I thought it was a great game. So if I'm going to rate this game and give it a fair rating, for me, The Last of Us Part 2, in terms of its platinum, I think I would place it around here. It's pretty high up there for me. I think 4 has to go back. I think I liked it more than 4. I don't think it would be better than God of War 2 though, or Ragnarok for that matter. I think those games are too good in my opinion. The Last of Us Part 2 did a lot right. It's just the story that really held it back for me. Like, I hope the third game ties it all into a pretty bow and makes it all make sense, because right now I feel like 2 was just there to make a bag and not really expand the story in any meaningful way, personally. But let's see. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I alluded to this a while ago, and the truth is here. My favorite game of all time. God of War 3. You could hear it in my voice when I was talking about it, how hype I was getting. This is the greatest game of all time. I know that it's only like 5 to 10 hours depending on which difficulty you play on. I know it's a short game with, you know, okay graphics. It's not the best graphical design game on here, but it has the most impact I have ever felt, ever. This game is a direct continuation. I mean, I'm talking about down to the second from the cliffhanger that was left in God of War 2. It is the culmination of everything finally passing the boiling point. The cat like knocking over the item off of the table. The moment where it all comes to a point of absolute collapse. God of War 3 was made with such care. The graphics were amazing. The gameplay was amazing. The story was brutal. And I've never played a game where I was the anti-hero, I was the villain, I was the antagonist the entire time, and I was celebrating, yelling and screaming and like, let's go, because they gave you 5 games before it. 1, 2, Chains of Olympus, Ghost of Sparta, and then eventually this one, right? Ascension came after. They gave you 4 games before it, this being the 5th one, building up his anchor to a point where it no longer mattered what was said and what was done. Action was the only thing that was going to get through. These guys made a game that was visually appealing, brutal beyond belief, gameplay that was insane. You could pick up Skull Warriors, smash their face in, use them as a battery ram, or you could rip them in half and insta-kill them. You had all your old abilities and then some with your tornado from Poseidon, right? Or you had your different weapon types. You had the Blades of Olympus changed into the Blades of Chaos, changed into the Blades of Exile because you were an exiled from the gods and you were no longer part of the Titans. You were now a solo show taking revenge on anyone who would stand in your way. You were taking every god you killed had a repercussion in the world. We're talking about slamming the god of the sun, Helios, and suddenly clouds befall the land and it infinitely rains, causing a mini flood, right? You kill Poseidon, a flood swallows the land, and the ocean is all that remains besides the peaks of the mountain. You kill Hades, and the souls of the dead are roaming free in hell, just nowhere to go, just to aim infinitely forever, right? To wander infinitely forever. There were repercussions for everything you did, and you saw it in the world. You kill Hera, and suddenly disease swallows the land and kills everyone that remains and destroys all of the plant life. Just all life in general just kind of ceases to exist. The list goes on and on and on and on and on. I freaking love this game. It was the perfect exclamation point and period at the end of a trilogy. It was bloody, gory, visually stunning, action-packed, and fun. And the entire time you are screaming at the top of your lungs for it to not end. I don't even care about the fixed camera. I don't even care about that because I was so used to it after playing so many different games that had this. Sorry guys, hold on. I hate these ads so much. They're so consistent, like it's so ridiculous. They did everything right in this game, and the only downside, in my opinion, this is like a 10 out of 10 game for me. The only downside on this game is the fact that it was short. Like I said, in the hardest difficulty, I beat this game in about 8 hours. In the easy difficulty, you can beat this in like 3 to 5 hours. So I understand that it's a shorter game, but its difficulty is hard. I'm talking about on the hardest difficulty, even with your max health, you can die in one hit. And a lot of bosses. I was doing a permadeath run on this game, and I would be 5 or 6 hours in, getting insta-killed by a single attack. Everything basically hits you and kills you in 2 hits. It is a challenging game beyond belief. Its story is amazing, and it's got something for everybody. I can't praise God of War 3 enough, and for me, it's my favorite game of all time. I'm also biased because it's my first PS3 game of all time, so take that as you will. Also, God of War is my favorite franchise of all time, so there's that as well. I'm a Kratos simp, if you want to call me that, but this game delivers, and it is fun, and even if you don't agree with me that it belongs up there, you can't deny when you played it, you were having a good time when you were playing it. Let's be completely honest. Okay, God of War 2018, God of War 3, the pinnacle of pinnacle, right? These are the best games out there for me. Now let's move on to a weird one. Demon Slayer, the Hinokami Chronicles. Kimetsu no Yaiba, the Hinokami Chronicles. This game, I don't know why I platinumed it. To be honest, I think it was kind of just easy. The reason why is because Demon Slayer, the video game, the first one, not the second one, is just a one-for-one retelling of the anime. Basically, everything that happens in the anime up until a certain point, you just play it in the story. Like I'm talking about, like it's almost a perfect 1-for-1. It's like a 1.2 for 1 kind of thing. It's that close. The highlight of this game was playing the multiplayer because it was a battle simulator, kind of like Naruto, how they had you choose, Naruto versus Sasuke, and they had their special abilities from the anime, and you'd go head to head. They had that same thing. And I got really good at it, where I was winning about 65 to 70% of my matches. And I was, ranking up and becoming pretty good at it. But for me, this game wasn't really that hard. Like I said, it's a literal beginning to end retelling of the story with no originality at all. The highlight of the game is playing the multiplayer, and that got stale after like a month. So I really can't give this a high rating. This game, I think we're gonna place here, guys. For me, it was a waste of money. Like, unless you get it for free through PlayStation Store, I really don't think it's worth it. I'm just gonna be completely honest. Okay. Nier Replicant version 1.2457, whatever the heck the title is over here. So this game is a weird one. The original Nier Replicant had multiple versions. There was a version that was released in like America, or the like Americas, I'm gonna say, and then there was a version that was released in like JP. The JP version, I believe, had a brother and sister be the main characters, or some of the main characters, while you were the little brother and the little sister was being taken care of by you, and yada yada yada. The American version, you were a big brute man, and it was, I believe, your daughter instead of your sister. Very weird, very different games that I didn't play. I didn't play either one of these. When I had played Nier Automata and how much I liked Nier Automata, I ended up finding out that there was a first game, like Automata was like a sequel, and there was a first game called Replicant that was getting a remake master kind of thing, a remaster basically. And I was like, whoa, I didn't know that. And because of the high bar that was set by Automata, I was excited. So I immediately went and I bought that game when it released, like immediately, because of course Automata had me like by a chokehold at that point. It didn't live up to the hype. It wasn't as good as the first one, or as it wasn't as good as Automata. The limitation for the attacks you had, for the characters, for the weapons, the story, everything just felt like a downgrade, which in a way is good because Automata felt like an upgrade in every way, but I felt like Replicant just wasn't on the same level, and I didn't enjoy it as much as I had hoped. So where would I put Replicant? I actually think I'm going to be a little brutal here. Replicant for me, maybe more than Dead Space. Oh, I think actually less. Maybe like here? No, I think I liked Uncharted more. Yeah, I think around here. Because I think the OG God of War was decent. This is an order. Everything is like, you know, like right to left. So for instance, I think RE6 and B is the worst. And then I think God of War Ghost of Sparta is the best, followed by Chains of Olympus, Prototype 2, and so on. Just so we're all on the same page in case we didn't know that. Yeah, for me, I didn't like Replicant as much. It was fun, but it just didn't hit the same. Automata did something to me that was on a whole different scale. Okay, Control. Here is a sleeper, a banger, an absolute banger. This game, I don't know what the game's even about. To this day, I platinumed the game and I can't tell you what this game even is about or the story in this game. I was so confused the entire time that I had to watch lore videos to figure out what was going on, and even then I couldn't wrap my mind around it. I'm still confused to this day. And I loved it. I love the mystery. I love walking in and hearing the whispers in the room, and you see people lifting up in the air in like an alternate dimension, and there's pockets of like different dimensions within the building, and the building's landscape is changing as you make your way through it in like the puzzle form. And as you go through like these buildings, you get to certain levels, and then there's different types of enemies. Like you have powers, and now you can glide and you can fly, and you're picking up the cement and you're using it as a shield, and you're blasting it back at them. It's like a very superpower-esque type thing, and it was great. I had a great time. The entire time, I felt like a superhero in some like virtual reality. I didn't exactly know what was going on, and I was loving it. Every bit of it. It was amazing. What in the heck is happening with these ads? Get out of here.
Almonds, water, and salt.
Your sales team is spending
No.
the right leads. HubSpot.
Okay. Sorry about that. Yeah. So long story short, Control is it's a sleeper. It's a genuine sleeper. I think this game doesn't get enough recognition, and I would put it pretty high up here. Maybe like here. I think Control was better than all of these, but it's just too confusing with its story to really be like too much higher. I think right there is good. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a crazy one up next for you. BioShock 1. I literally just played this game like within the last 6 months. I have never played a BioShock game before, and I have all 3 BioShocks for free thanks to PlayStation Plus. Long story short, PlayStation Plus gave me BioShock 1 and 2 in a bundle for free And then, however long later, I got Bioshock Infinite for free. I still haven't played Infinite because I'm still currently on 2. But I played Bioshock 1, and I ended up loving the idea that you could literally save scum the exact moment, just like Fallout, where you are in the world and what's around you. For instance, if you shoot an enemy and then he comes running at you, you could save at that exact moment. So let's say he runs at you and insta-kills you. You're like, oh crap, now I'm stuck in a cycle where he's aggro on me every time I load this save. I'm gonna, first I'm gonna engage, then I'm gonna disengage and run away. Maybe I'm gonna shoot him with the bow on this one. Now I'm gonna shoot him with the AR. That didn't work, I'm gonna throw a grenade. That didn't work, I'm gonna try the RPG. I'm gonna set down a nuke and run. Like, there are so many different ways that you can play this game, and they have, depending on how much you investigate the world, they have items scattered everywhere on the map, all over the place, and it's dependent on how much you're willing to look around and explore the world where you actually find the items you need. And I played it for the first time, as always, on the hardest difficulty, and I mean, I freaking loved it. This game is, at its heart, a first-person shooter, like with horror elements built in. And it's, you know, the graphics aren't that great, but I felt this game was so underrated and so ahead of its time that I ended up platinuming it when I never expected to. I just wanted to play the game so I could experience a Bioshock for the first time. I had no idea that it was going to have Fallout elements and I was going to like it as much as I did. So at the end of the day, for me, Bioshock, that game was amazing. I genuinely enjoyed it more than I thought. And where would I put it? I think it goes up there. Like, I liked it a lot. It has different weapons, different styles. You have the Inferno, the electricity, the mind like truck where you can like make them attack each other or be on your side and attack someone else. Like, there were so many different ways to play Bioshock, and I genuinely enjoyed it more than I thought I would. Like, way more than I thought I would. It was a good experience all around, and I think it's part of the reason why I'm so disappointed in 2, because 2 feels like a minimal upgrade to the first one, where it's largely the same game. You're just a big daddy now instead of a human who was like manufactured, you know, in the original Bioshock. You were like designed to go through this entire thing, and everything was predestined and determined, and they're putting you basically through the simulation that they expected to happen, and you end up like deciding to go against it and, you know, fight against it, blah blah blah, right? Whatever. This game, gameplay wise, story wise, the twist, it was fun. It was a ride, and the entire time I enjoyed it. Did I like it more than some of these action games, though? I still felt like it was action-y, but did I like it more than the God of Wars? I have to be, like, honest. I don't think I did. I don't think I liked it more than Prototype. I think here is fair, because I think it was better than Dead Space. The original Dead Space. I think that's a fair assessment. Yeah, okay. A weird one. Another weird one, guys. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, the campaign remake. It was like they released just the campaign. I don't really know what they were doing with that. It was okay. It was fun to use the weapons, but it was all basically just campaign stuff. It was probably one of the worst platinums on here, if I'm being honest. I really don't have much to say about it. It's Call of Duty campaign. If you ever played it, I beat it on the hardest difficulty. I did all the trophies. It was extremely easy, if I'm being honest. It was kind of underwhelming. So, yeah, there's not much to say. Uncharted, Drake's Fortune. This game, again, kind of falls into the problem that the other games fell in, where it was good, but I don't think it was better. I really don't think. I actually think it's a C game. I think these two games were all steps up, and it went from C to middle of the pack to middle of the pack. Genuinely, I think it belongs there, and yeah, I have to keep it there. I actually think that's a good place for it. It's a C game, unfortunately. It feels, you can feel the age of the game. It feels old. It's fun, it's exciting, but it feels like a PS3 game, early PS3 game, whereas the other ones feel like a late PS3, almost a PS4 game with how much is going on, the graphics and all that good stuff. And the story too were more fun in my opinion. Callisto Protocol. This was the Dead Space game that they promised us, and instead you got the melee brawler UFC horror game. It was the weirdest thing I've ever seen. They basically took a mechanic where like enemies can come at you into a fist fight like thing going on here, and you can choose to move left, move right, or to block or like go back, and you can attack and then they attack it. It was UFC BS. I platinumed it because it was a lot like Dead Space. There was a lot of things going on that were similar. I think it was from the same developers, and they promised it to be a Dead Space inspiration, and I definitely saw that, but it was worse. It was worse than Dead Space, and it was worse by a lot. I didn't like it that much. If I'm being honest, I didn't like it that much. I platinumed it purely because it was a Dead Space like game. I had to put it there. Do I think it was better than Uncharted? Yeah, but I don't think it was that good, to be honest. Personally, it wasn't for me. Resident Evil Village, the hardest Resident Evil that I've ever played on the hardest difficulty. On my alternate channel, I have a series where I played the entire, like my first playthrough ever since I got like the complete edition or the gold edition, whatever. I could play Village of Shadows off the rip. And Village of Shadows, I played on my first playthrough with no knowledge of the game. And those werewolves, those lichens are insane. They take like 30 bullets to the head. And it like just the first enemy that you fight, the first one you can actually despawn by just like going into the building and actually grabbing the bolt cutters. You can despawn him. The second one you have to fight in the building literally across the road, and it takes 30 pistol bullets. And I was struggling so hard just to do that alone that I ended up getting lucky and he ended up falling through the floor, and I was able to knife him without any damage to save like 30 bullets. But I just did it recently where like I did it legitly, and it's difficult. You have to hit like 30 shots and also manipulate him, because if you run at him, they'll do like an immediate grab animation, and you have to like recognize that, stop, let him play it out, and then run by him before he has his recovery frames. And it's difficult. The whole game is like that. If you're not using heavy weaponry, you're getting screwed. The pistol is useless the entire game. Like, it was insane how bad it was. I was shocked. It's sniper shot and shotgun fest and magnum fest the entire game. It's difficult, and I like that. I'm considering doing a permadeath run on it because of how difficult it is. I love difficult things. So for me, Resident Evil 8 was way more enjoyable than I thought. I would put it, I would put Resident Evil 8 maybe here. I still think I like the prototype. You know what? I think I liked it more than the first prototype, but not the second. That feels right. That feels good. Resident Evil 8 for me, the story was fun. It had the horror elements that we were all complaining about. It had the Resident Evil 4 inspiration, which is my favorite Resident Evil, mind you, including the remake. OG and remake are right there. It's like a 9.5 and like a 9.6, so it's very close. They had everything and a difficult game on the hardest difficulty that actually felt hard. The final boss felt hard. I had plenty of ammo. I just couldn't dodge properly. I couldn't like learn the mechanics and do enough damage in time before I would always get damaged. It was a beautiful game, beginning to end. I liked it a lot. I think it's slept on, and I genuinely thought it was great. It falls behind in like the no mercenaries mode. The DLC, everybody was clowning on the DLC. I liked the DLC. I actually thought Shadows of Rose was better than the original game. I liked Shadows of Rose a lot. So a lot of people had a lot of negative things to say about it, and I'm not here for it. I thought it was a great game personally, and it was very difficult, and I love that.
Oh no.
It was very difficult. Okay. The Dead Space remake. Boys, this game was good. Dead Space remake is a 100% A tier game for me. I liked it a lot. It's up there, and it's up there by a lot. I think I liked it. I think right here. I think it goes just behind 4. This is how you make a remake. You honor the original foundation and you build upon it. Graphics were better. The character actually talks now. The conversations are better. The game was felt like it feels like an actual horror experience, while it also feels like once you have that initial oh crap, you now can like time to lock in. Like you really feel like you're in this game, and it's fun. And the hardest difficulty, which is called impossible mode, is permadeath. You can save as much as you like, but the moment you die, it sends you back to the beginning and nukes your save data. I love that. That was so much fun, and that was one of the last trophies I needed to platinum the game. If you know anything about my channel, I do permadeath, I do challenge runs. That was baked into the base game. I didn't have to do anything. I just had to go for it. And it was a trophy. Cinema. Absolute cinema. This game does everything right. And then it does it all better than the original. And that's why the original is ranked where it is. Where is it actually? That's why the original is ranked here in B. And the remake is so much higher. I enjoy these games a lot. Now, Horizon Forbidden West. I don't technically have the platinum yet. I'm like 5 trophies short, but I'm going to get the platinum on it 1,000,000%, which is why I'm putting it on the list right now. Horizon Forbidden West is a game. You know what? I should do it in reverse. I'm actually going to do Zero Dawn first, because Zero Dawn is the first one. Forbidden West is the sequel. Horizon Zero Dawn is one of the greatest open world games I have ever seen. The world is amazing. The story is amazing. The combat is amazing. Aloy is a badass. This game, for me, is one of the greatest games I have ever played. You are talking about a post-apocalyptic world that was once futuristic. It was like a 2050, 2100, somewhere in there, current world that had AI machines that went sentient and decided to destroy all of life on the planet by using a biological converter as a fuel source, taking all life, whether it was plant life, animal life, or human life. All life on this planet was used as a biological source, and it is swept over the land, taking all of that and killing everything on the planet. In order to stop this, they weren't able to do it by any shutoff codes. That was going to take hundreds of years because the back door was nuked by a guy named Ted Farrow because of whatever reason. I forgot the reason. He found somebody wanted to do something and he didn't like that. So he's like, nope, nobody's smarter than me. I'm not going to have a back door. I'm going to make these machines AI sentient without a back door where we can just hack into them when needed. So they decided to make something called the Zero Dawn Project. And the Zero Dawn Project basically knew that all of life on this planet was going to go extinct. The machines were killing too fast, everything, slaughtering everyone. There was no way that they were going to be able to stop them. So they told everyone that Zero Dawn was a secret weapon and they needed everyone to get out there, whether you were man, woman, or child, and fight off the plague and buy them as much time as they could so they could create this super weapon project. Everyone didn't know that this weapon was basically just an after extinction weapon. Basically, they were creating sentient AI things called like Gaia, Hephaestus, Hermes, like different parts of the gods, of the Greek gods, and they had different functions. Basically, they had functions like Hephaestus was going to be creating machines, and it was going to use these machines to terraform the planet and do all the things that regular life, all other animal life on this planet did prior. These machines were going to be doing certain jobs to help terraform this planet. Other machines were going to be help terraform the biosphere so we could have air, clean water, things like that. There was ones responsible for the water. There was ones responsible for teaching human beings that they were going to eventually have come out of these capsules, kind of like the Matrix. They were going to be created and released in these facilities and taught all the ways of the world, like mathematics and everything that they had at the current point of extinction. They were going to be taught all of these things and released into the world to basically kickstart society to back to where they were before the extinction event happened. And basically the plan worked, but it was hundreds of years of terraforming, and then Hades, which was the program that was designed if something was to go wrong and the biosphere wasn't right, or maybe the water wasn't right, or the machines weren't doing what they were supposed to, it would reset by killing everything and destroying the earth, resetting it back to a certain default point so they could restart the process over again. And I think they did this like 7 or 8 times. It was something really crazy where they kept terraforming, destroying the world over and over and over so they could finally get it right and habitable for human beings and life on the planet again. It was crazy. And the worst part, or the best part, I mean, was Aloy was a genetic clone of Elizabeth Sobek, one of the lead scientists of this entire process. They basically tricked the world into believing that they had a chance against the Feral Plague, which is what they were calling the scourge of the machines destroying life on this planet within like 11 months or something short like that, because Pharaoh was the one responsible for getting rid of the back door. And so they basically convinced the entire world to buy them time for a weapon that wasn't even a weapon. It was a contingency plan to make sure life continued, but it was only after their own annihilation. It was the craziest thing ever. And because there was some kind of like malfunction that happened with Gaia, which was supposed to be the leader of this entire AI project, which was like the virtual intelligence that was supposed to be leading all of the other programs, she ended up creating a Aloy replicant, or not Aloy replicant, Aloy, which was the Elizabeth Sobek replicant, and then she ended up self-destructing herself to make sure that she didn't get infected and none of the other processes got infected. Aloy is a badass, and she handles her business like nobody else. This game's world, graphics, gameplay, story, it checks all the marks for me, and especially with the remaster that they released, it's only better. The enemies, the characters that were stiff once before are now 10 times better because they have more facial structure. They actually move and interact with their environment. Their hands are doing stuff. They're actually interacting with their environment in a way that makes them feel more organic, and the graphics are just turned up to 11. Horizon Zero Dawn is amazing. Horizon Zero Dawn, I can't, it's got to go there. I think God of War 2018 might be slightly better. Horizon Zero Dawn is a game that I am absolutely in love with. This game is amazing. I had so much fun. I put like 135 hours into the game, and I even played it on New Game Plus on ultra hard difficulty because I love the game so much that I wanted to do that. I think I beat it on ultra hard, and then I started up a New Game Plus and beat it on ultra hard again. That's how much I like this game, and I did that purely because I like the game. I bought the DLC, the what was it called? The Frostland, something like that. The Frozen Wilds. And that DLC turned it up to 11 because now we had the Daemon machines, and basically they were just corrupted Hades machines that had like basically like an Apex machine where they were way stronger, and we were introduced to the Frost Claw and the Fire Claw, which are basically the main like Apex predator of them of the DLC. And these guys, I'm not even joking, when they roared, when they screeched, it literally shook me to my bones. I felt the tingles in my spine, and to this day I still feel it. I'm like, holy cow, that is insane. This game, they have Tyrannosaurus Rex replicants like the Thunderjaws on your screen right there, right? They have Stormbirds, which is basically an oversized bird. They have what else, like alligators, right? Because a snap maw is what they call them. They have every kind of like animal you can imagine in a machine form, scaled up to 10 because they have actual weaponry like explosives and lasers and stuff. It is insane, and this game does it right. If you haven't played Horizon Zero Dawn, you're missing out. I'm just gonna say it, you are missing out. All right, that is an S tier game in my opinion. Horizon Forbidden West. Horizon Forbidden West turns the combat up to 11. It's better than Horizon, where you have weapon stamina now, so you can pull up 2-3 bows at a time. You can do different attacks. You have more options with your melee weapons, right? It's better combat for a worse story. I feel like in this game, the open world and the story are the two highlights. The story is significantly worse. The combat is significantly better. But if I had to choose between the combat and the story, I genuinely think that the story was way more impactful in the first game, more so than the combat is impactful in the second game. So, and I actually think Ragnarok had a really good combat system, although it was a little bit worse in my opinion. So I would rate it slightly higher than Forbidden West personally. But for me, I believe that it's still a top of the A list tier. There it is, guys. They did a great job. The world is better. The waves are amazing. The atmosphere is amazing. The graphics are good. But I believe that the story is lackluster comparatively, and the gameplay is superior to the first one. And I would rate it as such. There it is after, how long has it been now? Holy crap, 2.5 hours. I am so sorry, but I had 43 things on here that I needed to upload and talk about. So I hope you guys don't kill me for really taking my time and deep diving this, but I absolutely needed to talk about my deep thoughts about every single game and why I rated it the way I did. And I think at the end of this, I think that I'm genuinely happy. Like, let's talk about it. Do I think from right to left, the game in front of it is better than the last? If the answer is yes, then I think I did right. Let's see. Yes. 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 No, but it was an easy platinum because of the mobile device. Do I think that Ghost is worse? Yeah. Yes. Ooh. I think I might even change that. I think Rivals was better than Uncharted Drake's Fortune. Yeah. Callisto Protocol? Yes. 6 is better than Callisto Protocol. No, I think we changed that. I think we put it there. I think Protocol was better than 6. I think it was better than 3 too. Yeah, okay. I would change that. I think that's fair. God of War Ascension was butt cheeks. Black Ops 1, sure. Yes. Let's see. Let's actually go top to bottom, because then is that better than this? So yes. Yes, but it's close. Yes. Yes, but it's close. Yes. 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 I hate to admit it, but I think it's better, yeah. Yes. Yes. This one's close. These two are very close. Is that better than this? Yes. But that's because of the story in the world. This was amazing. This is definitely yes. This one's tough. I think Chains of Olympus is better. Yes. 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 This one's close. This one's very close. OG Dead Space versus BioShock 1. I think we switched them. I think I like OG Dead Space more. Yeah, I like that. Yes. Ooh, that's close too, though, honestly. Control is pretty good. But no, I didn't understand it enough to say that it would be better. Yes. Yes. Nier Replicant, original God of War. Nier Replicant, God of War, Uncharted 2. This here has got me out a little bit confused here. Infamous? Yeah, I think this is fine. Okay. I think this is fair. I think this is fair. Okay. That's going to do it for me, guys. That's my tier list of all of my platinums beginning to end. I have 52 total platinums, but some of them are repetitive, like God of War 3 I've beaten on the PS3, on the PS4. God of War 2 I've beaten on the PS3? I beat God of War 2 on the PS3, I believe, and the PSP Vita. You know, so on and so forth. There's a lot of games, like I played them multiple times on different consoles, years apart. So sue me. That's why I have like 40 something on here when I actually have 52 platinums. But anyways, that is gonna do it for me. Let me know what you thought at the end. You know, like what you thought. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Where do you rate some of these games? I would love to know your guys' opinions about these games, and maybe you can make your own tier list or something. This is my personal opinion, so don't sue me, don't kill me. I think that I made a pretty good, educated decision with a lot of explanations explaining why I feel the way I do about a lot of these games. That's gonna do it for me. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you thought in the comments, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for tuning in, and have a nice day, guys. I appreciate you sticking around with me. Godman out.